I guess the camera turns. Hello, everyone. We are live streaming onto YouTube, just to let everyone know, but we haven't quite started yet.
My voice is great.
Yeah, you did a lot of testifying the other day. It's surprising the vocal stream that can create. I can like sing all night long for hours, but talking for extended periods when you're kind of when you're performing talking it's
surprisingly stressful. You can't talk yourself.
Yeah.
And then I felt that, I don't know if people see me yesterday, they couldn't hear me in the community room.
Oh, yeah.
I think I was using because I just a hotspot.
Okay.
We talked about this. I talked about it with somebody. They said they shut their Wi-Fi off, their house Wi-Fi. So they have to do that.
Okay. I could hear you, but I could it was like definitely faint.
I even bought a separate speaker because computer speakers.
Yeah.
People in the world say go.
Yeah.
They all sound librarian power, but they wouldn't appreciate me
Speaking, yes, I know, that's the trouble with libraries. Yeah, that's why sometimes working in coffee shops is better because at least you can be loud. If you need to be, though, you wouldn't test a coffee shop.
If you test a headset, maybe that just that on. Is that fear? Because I have one.
Yeah, I've never tried one of these. Okay. Facebook Messenger. It just seems to be how people even though we have emails.
Maybe it just pops up, maybe in a way that texts don't.
Maybe, yeah.
My son working in a military base, they blocked texts, but somehow Facebook Messenger can get through.
Okay.
Tell it.
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah.
It was great to have Messenger when you was long.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's clear, it's clear as any cost us.
Yeah, a lot of people seem to use WhatsApp internationally too, which I had never used until I was trying to find other people in other countries. Hi, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, marvelous.
Great. Yeah, things seem to be going much more smoothly with technology this time. So
Well,
far, so good. Yeah.
Yeah, except I'm broadcasting from Tupelo, Mississippi, where we're under a tornado watch for the next 2 hours.
Oh my gosh.
So
Wow.
there's some possibility that we may have to retreat to the Hilton bathroom.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, well, I'll believe it when I see it. Although I'm getting notifications that lightning is striking in a few miles. So that's like the opening. It's a dark and stormy night. So there is some possibility I may lose connection. But if I do, I'll try again for in a couple of minutes. And if I get completely blanked out, I'll call you some other day and catch in.
Okay, thank you. And just so everyone knows, the live stream is running.
So don't say anything bad.
Yes.
Anything you say, again, will be used against you.
Yeah,
Good
you probably said
morning.
that before.
No, I just listen to this blonde.
I got the campus okay. I was driving around for a while.
Yeah.
Which app do you use an app? Like a.
Yeah, maps.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
Cause I use Waze, it got me right here, it's great.
Yeah, mine got me right here too, and then maybe me sharing the location somehow sent it in a different direction than plugging in the address.
Right,
So my apologies.
no worries. I asked somebody and they're like, what? I don't know.
Oh, jeez.
Okay, thank you.
Wait, you wanna add something?
Okay.
Is it Darren? Darren, are you still in the Northwest or have you returned home?
Oh, no, I'm home.
This is.
Welcome back.
And we want
What Shannon? Thing you sent me last night?
These are right.
Nice.
okay, yes, thank you. That was already on.
Did you like my message?
You got me good.
And then she told
I
me.
even texted Jill before you told me you're kidding. And then Jill called me and then I got your message. It was actually, it was great to then be happy that you were so close.
So we got up there, Darren.
Sandy.
Sandy.
Hey, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Sandra Lee.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh. if you don't have one, I do think I have.
Are you watching on your computer?
What was that?
Are you watching on your computer?
I mean, it's just the same thing.
Yeah.
that I
What a
see.
cute puppy. Oh,
This,
sorry.
this was mainly because of the lightning, the dog wants to be in my lap.
Oh, that's so sweet.
But I thought I'd match Darren dog for dog.
Because, where are you, Robert?
Tupelo, Mississippi,
Wow.
birthplace of Elvis.
Maybe your dog can help us establish forum if needed.
I exchanged messages with Bert moments ago. Oh, there he is.
Hi, Bert.
Hello, good morning, everyone.
Yeah, I haven't heard communication from Zeke.
Zeke
I know he has a new baby
and Sam?
and Sam
Sam conductors.
but I did hear from Joey. Or he at least responded to my email about dates, which also included this week. So
Okay.
I expect we'll see. Time. Aaron Dana says he'll be here shortly. He's just getting breakfast.
Important thing. Holy wait. Actually.
Where did they bring something?
Oh, and Newell, the restrooms are that way and then take a left.
Okay.
And then the cafe is right over there.
Oh, okay.
And they said, help yourself to coffee or tea.
Great.
Could text Zeke. See.
You're very nice. Now I'm using Hilton Honors Wireless, which looks something like a silent movie. So I'm going to unvideo myself in the hopes that that will make communications better for everyone else. If I have anything useful to say, I'll try to resume my video,
Okay, thanks, Bob.
but I'm still here, and the dog.
Sam.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Dan has joined us. So we're just waiting for Zeke and Joey.
St. Paul. Here it comes. Member of the public.
I guess I don't know if he even knows.
Oh,
I think he wanted to be helpful if it was. Yeah.
if there's anything.
Oh, yeah, I can if you want. Mhm.
It'll show you the inbox.
Yeah. Hey.
Hello.
Long time.
Of course not.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
We are live streaming, just so you know.
One?
No, we're missing one, Zeke and Joey, I believe. Yes, these are meeting materials.
It's awesome. Thank you.
You said he's.
Looks like I have questions.
Yeah, one of those turned out
Did it?
weird computer.
33, couple of them. It's a secret one.
Top secret government findings.
Oh, my gosh.
About that.
That's okay. Well, we know what it is.
It didn't go through like the conversion process, I guess.
I want you to see those.
That's fine.
And
Good enough, but like the swears and cartoons.
We found
oh,
another,
that's Swahili.
we found another one of those crazy words in the dictionary. Like there was a Gamalwadin, and then the other one
Oh,
was
good morning.
yeah, and then the other one was a bag.
Yeah.
Should I not publicly ask what those mean on the live stream?
Oh, no, they're good words.
Okay.
It's English, just
Oh.
with a native accent.
I see.
Give them one.
Gamalwadin is game warden,
Ah,
and Nuzabek is nose bag.
wow,
Yeah.
alright, that's hilarious.
That's all I heard was growing up. Was that? Was a big.
Nuzabek, power structure.
Yeah, that too. My siblings were trying to ditch me. He said, what? Come on.
Does anyone have the ability to shoot Joey a text easily?
zoomed right in on me and just,
That's that's smart camera. It focuses in on whoever's
I
talking.
took a big bite, looked at the screen and zoomed right in on me.
I mean, I guess we could start and then hope. I don't know how you know.
Do things you don't have to vote on.
Yeah,
Here he says,
I did text Zeke.
There might be an alliance meeting right now too.
Right.
we're missing Joey and Zeke.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Sam, do you know if Zeke was planning to join us?
I haven't heard anything to the contrary.
Okay,
I just sent him a note as well.
So we, me and the past water chiefs met with, Janet Mills on Wednesday.
Oh.
And, one of the things that we brought up was MITSC too. Because there's a potential constitutional amendment having to deal with an officer
Mhm.
to speak on behalf of like the tribes, not to speak on behalf of them, but to keep us like updated on certain things, how things pertain to tribal matters.
We talked about that.
Yeah, so, and, that's where MITSC come up, it's like asking roles and responsibilities, MITSC.
So there's an advisory council.
Yeah, that's what they're looking to do as an advisory,
Seems like it overlaps.
like an official seat, position at the Secretary of State's.
Right, tribal state affairs.
Yeah, like a liaison,
Mhm.
and then have a advisory committee
Advisory.
on top. I thought that fell under the parameters of MITSC. I think, like, honestly, I think that MITSC, that's what we have to do is really, just push our way into the involvement of things. I think that we've been a little bit laid back in the past.
Joey said, okay.
I think that, yeah. Like we've been a little laid back in the past and not really too good. Like, get pushed our involvement into a lot of.
Yeah, fully engaged.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think that's my push will be over the next, I don't know how long I have left. 2 years?
Yeah, I think so.
I wanted to talk about the idea of maybe converting MITSC to that level. Because so much,
Transition to this?
right, yeah, because, supposed to be an interpretation of some, the courts have been doing. So MITSC will put opinions of the politicians and get ignored, and then ends up getting resolved. Anyway.
Right, and it's not even necessarily a political group, it's more, like advocacy or not so much of an advocacy, but that's supposed to be that communication between the state and the tribes.
That's what MITSC was supposed to be doing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying,
Yeah.
yeah. By the way,
Oh,
we haven't officially met.
Ah.
Exchange some emails, I think.
Yeah.
In person.
Yes, yeah, and congratulations on the position.
Oh, thank
Super
you.
excited about, you working here and how we're gonna move forward.
Wait, you know what I was getting into? Like drinking from a fire hose. Which is, a good thing.
Yeah, it's good.
There's Joe.
Hydrated.
Yay.
Hey.
I heard from Zeke.
Sorry about that.
Welcome, Joey.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Guano.
Wano.
Guano Gilna. Hey, I got a question real quick, Jill. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hey,
Okay.
don't call me sir. I dress myself in the morning. But anyway, so on all that, the documents that we sent, page 32 through 34, I can't read that.
No, I noticed it was corrupted, but. It didn't show
Oh,
it.
that what that was. I thought you were speaking another language. I said, I don't recognize that language.
No,
That's Janet's calligraphy.
Secret, her secret codes.
apparently it was some built. Maybe it was the.
What's an act of government in Maine State?
Yeah, it's really the important one. Sorry. Setting up the office of tribal state affairs.
Oh, is that what it is? I was gonna say, is that the one that we've already submitted that passed through? I thought it was just policy changes. It looked a little bit longer than I remember.
She had a different bill and I got an email. Bill Brown. That like re-envisioned it, and so I kept emailing him saying, hey, do you have a recent draft?
This one.
Yeah, that's kind of salty.
Okay, this one, yes.
Yeah, because I think the other one was the resolution, it's just one line.
Oh, okay.
It could be. Yeah, no comments.
Mhm.
Well, we don't have porn yet.
I was having a little bit of conversation with Sandra too, from the state side of things. And that was the other thing I was gonna say, when Janet Mills, that she was talking about the lack of people interested in that position, but Sandra knows a couple of people that are interested for the state side, and if we know of any others, I think that we should get a list together, maybe, that I can bring to like Jerry Reed or Janet Mills.
Just talked to Jerry and the governor directly about that.
Yep.
And her criteria makes it difficult. Because she wants, and I was going to talk about that later.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she wants people unburdened by knowledge from prior positions. Moving into it cold, and it's like, why would anyone want to do this if they are interested?
So she's looking for out of staters then?
Oh,
You know, yeah, that's almost impossible because anybody that's got any affiliation with her office or here in the state, you know, in any capacity of position, has dealt with the tribes or knows knowledge of dealings.
I want to talk a little bit more about, she said, I tried to direct her about maybe can look for experts and see if any of the commission needs. She wanted, I think we already did submit names, all made some names, but because they came from us. Disqualified too.
Yeah, there are some good people out there, I can fill the position. Maybe Richard and Robert have some ideas as well. So we want to just start, and then we only have a couple of items, I think, that would require voting on it. Yes,
Would you like to open?
yes. So we'll open the meeting 11:24 with just a little honoring to our creator, and then introductions as well. Living in Virginia West Common. Chameleon and Episcopal Pomosa Wala. Chameleon and Eduji. Holy Naguak. We go to it good. Eliwitas escape from it. Siren, wujukan manen. Makakazamanen. Nagamit with Hamano kana. Naomi, Nikani outdated. Living in Virginia West Common. Living Louis, Eskimo ka balas to kwa winyo. Nuje zibay padakme ko na benegut ko. Oh,
Aaron Damon, you delete these? New Jail Doc Migu, West Kamuka Mill, Tribal Representative Mill. I don't know how to say it. But, yep,
Bert,
I muted myself again. Anyway, good morning, everyone. Bert Bolches, from Penobscot Nation. Thank you for everyone being here. Good morning to everybody. Hopefully everybody weathered the storm pretty good, and that you're ready for this next one coming. Yeah.
Lewin, Bob,
Good morning. If I'm not muted, yes, I think I'm not muted. I am.
You're muffled.
It's very hard to hear you, yeah,
How about now? Is that any better?
better.
yeah, there you go.
Okay. I'm Bob Checkaway, one of the state appointees, and although I usually participate from our southernmost geographic location in Freeport, I am broadcasting today from the Hilton Inn in Tupelo, Mississippi, which is the birthplace of Elvis and the ceremonial homelands of the Choctaw and the Chickasaw, and before them, the Natchez Indians, for whom we have named a trace, which we'll be following. But the native and colonial history is quite thick here because the French fought with some of the groups, and the British fought with other of the groups. The Choctaw were displaced with Andrew Jackson's Trail of Tears, but the state of Mississippi is trying to reckon with its historical past. And I'm glad to see you all. By the way, we're under hurricane warning or watch here, so if I unplug, it will be only to go into the bathroom, and then about an hour before this meeting ends, we may, if the tornado watch lifts, get into our car and start driving, and I'll then be on phone, but I'll check in when I get back. Look forward to it.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Darren,
Hi, good morning, everyone. Darren Ranko, Penobscot Nation representative to the commission, and just happy to share some time with you all. Thank you.
Lewin, Richard,
Good morning, Richard Rosen, State Commissioner, transmitting from Bucksport.
great. You guys jumped around on me here. Joey,
Good morning, Joey Barnes, Pasquoty representing Indian Township.
Lewin, Sandra,
Good morning, Sandri Armel, Passamaquoddy Tribe, representing Zibike.
Lewin, and Sam.
Sam St. John, Holton Band of Mouse Indians Commissioner.
Lewin, Sam.
I'm Rachel Bell, Projects Coordinator with MITSC.
Awesome.
Good morning, I'm Jill Tompkins. I'm the Executive Director of MITSC, and I'm a Penobscot Tribal Citizen.
Lewin. Review of agenda. We do not have a quorum as of yet, so we will probably skip number 3, is what I looked at and what I think that's what the only ones we're gonna be voting on today, or is there more?
Zeke says he's on his way.
Okay,
Votes.
okay. So for now, we're gonna skip number 3 and move on to 4, the MITSC financial reports and audit preparation.
Do you want to do land acknowledgement?
Is that on?
Yeah.
Oh, I missed it.
It's okay. It was a little odd to do it anyway, so.
Yeah,
But good morning. Lately, we're seeing at meetings that, folks are doing a land acknowledgement. Indigenous people, historically and presently are in a particular area. And, it's predominantly for non-native people. But, this being, Wabanaki ancestral land, I thought it was a little odd for me to try to do it Unfortunately, I didn't have enough time because it's been a crazy while, 2 weeks, as you will hear from our reports, to talk to our tribal historians. So there may be things in here that are controversial, which might make for discussion. And I also would like anybody who can correct me on the language, because there's some native words in here that I may mispronounce. So, these territorial acknowledgements can be seen as a sort of political statement encouraging primarily non-Indigenous people to recognize that they're on Indigenous land and hopefully do something about it. The acknowledgement can go a step further than just recounting history, but to create the intention to breathe life into the obligations to the treaties and to the communities. I heard recently that it was either the cast of Flowers, Killers of the Flower Moon, or Res Dog at the Golden Globes or the Oscars, just said before we accept our award, we need to acknowledge where we are. They were in Los Angeles, so that was pretty powerful.
Awesome, yeah.
But we are not in Los Angeles. We are here in the Kennebec River Valley, where Wabanaki people have lived for at least 13,000 years, inhabited by the Kennebec tribe, also known as the Norridgewock and the Kennebis, and they're described as, and this is the one thing I struggle a little bit, is where Abenaki and Wabanaki get intermixed. So, but anyway, this particular historian described the Kennebec as an early Abenaki band that lived in the valley, and that their name comes from the Kennebec River, which is named after the bay that it empties into, Kennebec, meaning bay in the language. And that the Kennebec were divided into 4 bands, include the Sagadahoc, who lived between Merry Meeting Bay and the Atlantic Ocean, the Kushnok, Kusanok, who dwelt in the vicinity of Augusta, so where we are now, on the east bank of the river. And Kusanok means the head of the tide, where the tidal action of the sea on the Kennebec River stops. The Taconic, who possessed and occupied the fertile region of the Sepastico rivers at Waterville, and they were described as the powerful Norridgewock, who lived in the village of the same name on the Kennebec River. So at this time, it was estimated that the tribe's warriors numbered about 1,500. Didn't seem to account for women and children, but the French established a mission at Norridgewock in 1688, and in 1695, Jesuit priest Father Sebastian, is it Rails?
Rails, yeah.
Rails took up residence there and built a church. The Kennebec, along with the other tribes in the area, were attempting to stop English encroachment upon their lands, and, quote, began to conduct Indian raids with regularity on the heavily populated settlements in southern Maine. And there were 4 Indian wars. The last one is relevant to this area. It's during the Lovewell's War. The British killed Father Rails on August 23rd, 1794, in the Battle of Norridgewock. And again, quote, to revenge the raid on Norridgewock, the Indians burned. So the question is, where are they now? And there are two versions as to where the Kennebec are today. One said that the remnants of the Kennebec fled to Canada or merged into other Abenaki or New England Algonquin groups. Today, there is no distinct Kennebec band. The second response to that was that the massacre at Norridgewock was by no means the end of the Kennebec tribe's presence along their river. Historians, traditional Wabanaki knowledge keepers, and oral accounts all recount that many stayed behind or were returned to Narragansett the very next year. The Kennebec sent chiefs regularly to represent their tribe in treaty negotiations up through the 1760s. My first encounter with looking kind of at this history. So it's there, and I have to go home and talk to the tribal historians and see what they say about it. But what came up in my research was Natural Resources Council of Maine had a land acknowledgement that was pretty touching. I'll try to get through it. So the NRCM recognizes and honors the Penobscot, Passamaquoddy, Mi'kmaq Nation, and the Maliseet tribes of Maine, collectively Wabanaki, which translates as people of the dawn. These tribes have stewarded Maine for generations, stretching back to before colonial settlers forcibly occupied the area. The NRCM office in Augusta is on the unceded territory of the Penobscot Indian Nation, and many of us conduct our work on unceded lands once overseen by the Wabanaki. These lands, both urban and rural, have inherited a legacy of broken treaties and genocide. In defiance of these injustices, descendant communities of the Wabanaki Nation maintain spiritual, culture, and physical connection to these lands. We acknowledge this history and recognize Indigenous sovereignty. A land acknowledgement like this is an essential beginning, but it's only a beginning. NRCM is actively committed to using our voices, our resources, and our power to support the tribes of the Wabanaki Confederacy. We know how important it has been over the 63 years since our organization was founded, and how essential it will continue to be to work together with the Wabanaki Knowledge Keepers to protect the air, land, water, and wildlife of Maine.
There you have, oh, Zeke is here.
Zeke.
Welcome, Zeke.
Hey, good morning, everyone.
And congratulations.
Thanks.
You see the baby?
Good.
Yeah, can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, sorry for running a little late here, but I'm here.
We understand. Sorry I missed that, number one. Yeah, I just like opening and then went right into the review of the agenda. Did anyone else have any comments on the agenda? We now have full quorum. All set? Okay. Did you give thumbs up? Oh, okay. All right, so we'll go ahead and do review of the minutes. Did anyone from the Mitchell Center back in December 15th? The minutes were in the packet and they look fine to me, but if anybody has any comments, questions, or corrections, now's the time. All good? Anyone object to approval of the minutes?
A motion to approve them.
All right, it's done. There was no objection though. But we can,
So by acclamation.
all right, so Bert made a motion. We'll acknowledge that. Any second to the approving the minutes?
Second,
Thank you, Karen. Discussion? Looks good? No objections, thank you. MITSC financial report and audit preparation.
So in your packet, you'll find printouts that have provided for the budget. You're in good shape with the exception of one line item that needs to be adjusted, which is the payroll taxes. And we've had some discussion about that, and Paul was on earlier, and he had estimated it, but then it's turned out it's not accurate. So I have just inherited the budget, so I'm starting over from ground zero and doing what they call a zero-based budget to really look at each line item and make sure that it's going to match up with what we anticipate our spending going to be. I apologize for my voice, I'm kind of losing it. There's been a lot of talking this week. So
What page are you on?
I'm on
Page 9?
yeah, 10.
Yeah.
So that's where you can see the payroll taxes are over by $6,638.09. So I'm meeting with Pat on Tuesday and we will have a reconfigured budget. And once that we're able to make those adjustments, could send it out.
So that the projected will go, I mean, the budgeted amount will go up, is that what you're saying?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, to cover that. And part of it was that, you know, we're on full-time, Paul was on part-time, so there was that overlap.
Mhm.
I'm not sure that the budget took that into account. He was estimating it.
Okay.
Paul may move to a contractor status to look and see what we've got for money left over to do that. And also what the commission sets as priorities for projects. So actually, so today, hopefully I get to get some direction. So that's where I should dedicate money to. Paul may move to a contract status. Projects.
I'm not sure. We had it.
It's Paul's.
Paul's.
Actually, so today, hopefully I get to get some direction. So that's- Paul may move to a
Been a while.
Just playing back.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry, my video doesn't seem to be coming on. Having a snowstorm here, that may be the problem. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're somehow hearing like a delayed recording of what Jill just
Well,
said.
That's
Here.
because it's because I had the stream on. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Should be gone now.
Yes.
If it's helpful, I just wanted to follow up on. You still hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Bill was talking about the discrepancy in the payroll taxes. It's basically it's because of the way paychecks combine employee withholdings that are part of the employee salaries with the employer's payroll taxes, so that that payroll taxes line always comes out looking, because part of that is actually the withholdings from the employee payments, if that makes sense. So we've had that issue for a while. Pat's tried to get an adjustment made, but it still continues to show up on the payroll taxes are, extremely high, and that's because they're actually coming from the employees. Hopefully that explaining it. So it doesn't actually reflect an overage in personnel expenses. It's an artificial thing that's the result of the taxes all in a lump rather than from the employer taxes.
So so what's included in there is the withholding for the employees as well as what the commission pays as an employer.
Right. And but it's just she hasn't been able to spending on the personnel side. It's artificial.
Okay. Well, I can work with her in paychecks to get those separated out.
Good luck.
Yeah, Paychecks doesn't want to pick up the phone. They'll only email you. Pretty strange.
I can stay on. I was on the stream. I can stay on the meeting if it will be helpful. I'll just stay for now.
Yeah, I don't have a problem.
It's up to you, yeah. Having your historical perspective would be ideal.
Very historical, yes. That's me.
So I'll make those adjustments and then maybe circulate a revised budget. We look at.
Yeah.
The bottom line is not going to change. Oh. The audit, Pat's in the middle of collecting a voluminous number of documents that she has to provide to show backup of all the expenses and income. She's also working on 1099s for the contractors. So she may ask for about a 2-week extension for the audit. And also that will clear up some time so she can actually sit down with me and concentrate on revising the budget. But otherwise it's pretty well on schedule and should be done in time. tribal contributions.
Okay, so that covers the financial
Yeah,
reports
I
and the
think so, yeah.
audit? Okay, thank you. And tribal contributions follow-up.
Right, so, that is the, tribal assessments, I guess they're called, but the tribes are not apparently committed to it, so that's why I just say contributions as opposed to some kinds of mandatory assessment. But I did send out invoices. First I emailed them, and then I mailed them, and then I mailed them again. So in I think November and then December. The ones in December just went out toward the end. So Holton Band did send their check in, so we got that yesterday. And then Penobscot Nation, I called them and I said, you know, did you get this? She goes, this is the first I've seen it. So I sent it to Sharon, so it's now in the finance office. So I guess I would ask, maybe I can send the invoices to Passamaquoddy reps, and I don't know, maybe you can help. Maybe see if they will have gotten that, or encourage them to pay it, that would be helpful.
Okay, is that something Sandra and Joey could assist with, maybe?
Yes.
This is-
If you,
Oh, go ahead, Joe.
sorry, I don't mean to step on my elder.
You do mean to.
Yeah, if Jill emails that to me, I'll make sure to get it to the chief's desk and get it taken care of, yes.
Yeah, be happy to.
And I'll be glad to meet with Chief Bassett on it.
Thank you both. Good?
Yeah.
Good plan?
Yes, we do.
Staff activity reports.
This-
Read your video?
Yeah, in the middle of this one, we'll look at,
Oh, okay.
we'll have a little break to watch this video.
All right, works.
So
All right, so staff activity reports.
I just want to remind folks that this is less than a month since our last meeting.
Yes.
So it's been pretty busy. So just administratively, the transition from Paul to me is pretty much completed. His last day of employment was September 30th, and as I mentioned, I was talking about him possibly working on the online library for some broad reach funds, and so they're hoping to use those for that. Already talked about the audit. One thing that seems to, it's never ending, is that there's a lot of different places where you have to update your contact information. So we're taking care of those as they come along, and Paul's been great about forwarding things that need to be done. There was a form that needed you to say who your legislative contacts were. And I looked at the definition of lobbying, and it's not the federal definition, it's broader. It's that if you are advocating in support of a bill or something, and you're compensated in your work to do that, then you could possibly be seen as a lobbyist. So I think Paul erred on the side of caution and did file that form. So I just wanted to let Rachel know. So I put myself on there, and then Rachel, because you've testified in the past, and then Newell, I put you on there as well.
Okay.
I might ask you to, there's a couple of bills coming out that your voice may be really significant for.
So it's a broad definition then?
Yeah, I wish I had it.
Our legislators all get paid.
But that's their job. But I think, it's that you're representing a particular group as opposed to. Oh, okay. I don't know. I've had to work with, all kinds of nonprofits, and our answer to us, we're just providing information. But here, when you testify, they want to know if you're in support or against, or take a position. So.
And we do that. We do.
Yeah.
Provide in support, against, or.
Yeah.
What's the other one?
Either.
Neither for or against.
Then there are a few nonprofit programs out there where we're exempt from paying state sales tax. So we've already done that with AT&T, and I'm looking at that with Amazon as well. They have a special program. Sometimes they take a long time, like they want to approve it. So it's not as quick as one would think. I'm still working on it. Then when I started, the staff all had the files on separate laptops. So we set up a Google Drive, and so everything's being shared there. And like Paul's been busy downloading things, and Rachel's been a little bit about updating it. So I think that's gonna be a great repository, and it's also what we'll be able to use for building the library. I already talked to you about the requests for contributions. And then I guess what I was looking for is that several tribal commissioners, your terms had expired. So we were hoping, and I sent them an email, I think I also mailed it to your chiefs, asking for you to be reappointed. And then in Bert's case, I reached out, it turned out to be to the tribal clerk, so the tribal council had to approve that. So Bert, did you heard the results of that? You're muted.
Oh, they never contact me about it. They just, they just figured y'all will.
We're reappointed whether you want it or not. So you're
Yeah, I heard.
What's the length of the reappointment?
3 years.
3-year term?
Yeah. So I think Sandra. Should be. Sam and Zeke. Need updates.
Darren is all set. You take it one by one.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he's okay.
Yeah.
Till November.
Till November, okay. And then we have Sandra and Joey.
Right.
This is Sandy. If someone can get me a laundry list and some supporting documents for Chief Bassett, I can attend to all of it then.
Okay, perfect.
I got a laundry basket for you.
Oh, only one?
Yeah, it's just those 2 items, the contribution, getting you reappointed. Yeah, I just felt like if we're, hounding the governor for appointments on the state side, we should get ours. Tribal side.
And how about Zeke and Sam?
I think they both need to be reappointed because their term started in 2019.
Okay.
So February and March, so it's coming up.
Joe and Newell, I haven't heard back from Chief Sabatis yet. It was helpful that you sent that email and I reminded her about it. But Sam, have you heard anything? But I mean, I got a verbal confirmation, but she hasn't. She didn't write anything.
Nope, I've heard even less than that. So no update on my end.
I tried to help by drafting letters and said, here's the letter if you care to use it. So I can send that to both of you. So you have
Yeah,
it.
that would be helpful. Yeah, just something that she can sign and we can bring back.
Exactly. Yeah.
Perfect.
So. On there. And then actually the current listing is in here. The current listing is on page 19 of your packet. So if there's any phone numbers or emails, anything you want me to update, please let me know. I guess just with regard to the commissioners again, LD 1679 had been passed and signed by the governor. It established staggered terms for the state commissioners, but it didn't become effective because of Penobscot Nation and the Passamaquoddy tribe. And Holton may be certified late, but Passamaquoddy and Penobscot didn't certify their approval of the law. So technically it's not effective right now.
I'm sorry, which law is that again?
It was 1679,
Mhm.
it's been from the 130th legislature.
No, this was the bill I submitted for some policy changes. Robert Checkway did a lot of the work on the language on that. We got that passed in last year,
Right.
or last session.
Yeah.
In 2023. The enactment was showed in June of 23.
Right, no, it was enacted, but because it amended the implementing act, the tribes had to certify that they approved of the law. So those certifications had to get sent back to the Secretary of State. Yeah, we're hoping to talk to you about that because that's.
Okay, so none of those tribes have certified.
Right,
That's what it was.
Okay, or just the 2?
Yeah.
yeah. In conversation, I tried to get, the tribal clerk to say, because Chief Francis did appear where there was an informational session with the Judiciary Committee. They're going over 1626, which is was a big sovereignty bill that didn't go through. But in that conversation, they did mention this to Chief Francis, and he did mention something about Penobscot takes longer because they may have to call a general meeting to approve it as opposed to just their council doing it. So I'm trying to get that nailed down. That's really his position.
Okay.
So I have a question. So, where does that leave us? Is that bill just like gonna go away, even though it's approved or by the state? Or do we still have time that the respective nations have time to go ahead and go through their process of approving them?
Was the wonderful guy who sends out the chart?
So,
Brian Collins.
Yeah, Brian Colleran and Jerry Reed both said we could tack something on to a bill this session that would extend the period of time for certifications.
yes, yes. It could also be presented to, all that board, not legal counsel. Legislative council as well can do the approvals on it. Yeah, there's a process that we can go through to get the extensions on that, and the bill, no, is not. It's not just gonna go away, but yeah, we'll work on getting that all squared away. Brian Collins is a great asset to us, but unfortunately, he's taken another position, aside from Rachel Talbot Ross's, the speaker's office. So he might, get his hands in a little bit, but I don't think that we're gonna be able to necessarily, he's not gonna be able to focus, on our stuff. So that'll be something I'll work on and get done with Jerry Reed and also with the speaker's office as well to get that extension on this bill.
Awesome. Believe in Aaron.
So glad you're here.
Willie Wongwas.
So I just want to clarify, so back on number 7, update on commissioners' appointments. So did we talk about Richard and Robert?
I'm getting there.
Oh, sorry.
That's actually the next thing on the update was Jerry Reed asked to meet with me in person. And it was during that time where the power went out. We had that bad storm.
Yeah.
So we had to postpone it. So I met with him just last Friday. Yeah, last Friday. For his invitation and, very cordial and, it was kind of informal, just kind of on several topics. And so I did ask him about the potential stateside commissioners. And he didn't want to release any names. He did say that there's 2 that have been selected by the governor and they will have a confirmation hearing. But he didn't seem to have a timeline on that. So that's probably up to the Judiciary Committee. He said, and I think we've already talked about it, that there was a woman that they were hoping to also appoint, but she had too many other family and other commitments, so she declined. So with regard to the other 2 vacancies, Jerry articulated that the governor is looking for individuals who will be unbiased and won't come to the commission with predetermined positions. So we also talked about, maybe individuals who'd add diversity to the commission, such as another female member or a member from Horsted County. So that's pretty much wrapped up. And we did talk about the certification issue a little bit as well. And that's when he agreed that it could be tacked onto a bill or this session. But what was interesting was that I was leaving Jerry's office, headed down the hallway, and then I heard my name and he stopped me. And he said that the governor wanted to meet me. So I then went into her office and just for future reference, when you go in there, she has a very big desk. She has sort of like a big executive chair. But when you go to sit down, there's like these old chairs from like the 1800s, these leather seats, and they're like kind of, bent in and, worn. And so you sit down, your chin is even with her top of her desk. So I was like, this is interesting. But, so I leaned forward onto her desk. But we had a really a good conversation. She didn't remember that we had worked on something together 25 years ago, but I forgive her for that. So what are the main things we were talking about? Yeah, so we talked about the commissioners, and so we thought, well, maybe, you could look for people with certain expertise. So we have the fishing rules that are coming up. I know we have some commissioners who have that background. But then also was economic development. She was really, really hot on economic development being something that she wants us to pursue and she wants to support. And then I think later on, I contacted Jerry and I said, well, tourism, you know, we've almost like survived by tourism. So as a basket maker, I know how important that was to my family, and it is to the whole state of Maine. So looking in those particular areas, and also she kept talking about how much land and trees we have, and couldn't we do something with those? So just kind of left it there. She did say that she was very sorry to see Richard Rosen leave the commission because he's a great guy. She was sad about that, but did appreciate his service. She also noted that she thought maybe some difficulty in getting people to serve on the commission was because some state commissioners, and she didn't say who, have been frustrated with their terms. Did you?
Well, we haven't let Richard go yet.
No, right? Aaron, did you have some? Did you
I
want to
have
say-
handcuffs. Richard, I have handcuffs. We'll keep you.
Yeah, we do appreciate you, Richard,
Yes,
as
very
well,
much.
so.
Bert, are those the velvet handcuffs that you use? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
I have nice furry sleeves to go over the metal.
Beaver pelt?
Okay.
And then we had a little conversation, because as you may know, I think there's 3 tribal gaming bills that are considered by the legislature this time. So I think those are on her mind.
Yeah.
And so when we were talking about economic development, she said gaming is not economic development. And so, you know, I kind of had to respectfully disagree with her, because I work for 3 different gaming tribes. And what they've been able to do with their community, for their own communities, but surrounding communities and for other tribes, it's just been amazing. So I did sort of mention that, and then as I left the office later, I thought, well, maybe I'm not supposed to argue with the governor, but it wasn't a big argument, but she was very, you know, cordial about it. But she did say the only reason she had approved the sports betting is because of the tribes had wanted it, and that the tribes had been, quote, treated unfairly when it came to the establishment of casinos. That was an interesting acknowledgement, but nonetheless, it does seem like she's gonna veto any more gaming. So moving on, that's kind of just my administrative update from last.
Okay, I did have another question.
Okay, sure.
So on, because I'm still on page 19, and so with Richard Silverboy, did we get an answer from
No,
him?
right, so I'm not sure, how did that come to us? It came through Rachel got a message on Facebook from Richard. Do you know?
Yeah, I mean, initially he had proposed the idea of
Trial period.
a 6-month trial period, and then he said he would like some of us from MITSC to come to a council meeting. But then I think I directed him to you, and you emailed him your requests to get that on tribal
Yeah, because
letterhead. And I think he said something to me like, I'm not sure that's gonna happen with the tribe. And that's the last communication I got.
so maybe one of us could follow up with Richard and Chief, Peter.
Do that.
Okay.
Yeah, hopefully you all understood that what Rachel was saying, that the Mi'kmaq Nation, he thought maybe could have a trial period, being on the commission. I think that they could come and participate, but I don't know that they could have a vote till the.
Right, and that could happen now, right? He does have a
Official observer status.
official observer status, right?
So, you know,
That would take a change of the implementing act to do so,
It would,
and that would have to go to legislation to
Yeah.
get them as a full-time position.
right, and I didn't want to move in that direction until we had confirmation from chief and council from Mi'kmaq to go ahead and proceed in that direction.
So if it would be 2 representatives from Mi'kmaq, but there'd also be an addition of 2 more state positions, so that it would be equal. So now you're talking 4 more seats,
Right,
so quorum would be bigger. So no,
so rather than go through that whole process without a letter, I think it'd be, you know, we would need that to move forward.
And it was sounding like maybe the first step was just having some MITSC representatives talk more about this at the council meetings. I feel like that was maybe the request that was sent.
To request to come up?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
and again, it'd be nice to have a letter saying,
Yeah.
could you all come up?
Right.
Right.
So I'm going to, I will get more in depth on the legislation that we've been involved with. That's one of our statutory duties is to review the act's effectiveness and the social, economic, legal relationships of the tribes and state. So these are on page 13, listed out the different bills that we've been considering. Rachel and I have been on several Zoom calls, can't almost keep track of them, especially on the Wabanaki Studies bill. Then I did, and I'll get into this more, and there's a chart in here as well. We did have the legislative committee met twice on January 5th and January 12th. And the question, I asked was, could you give me some guidance on when you do get involved? And it was that if we were requested, of course, or if the bill topic concerns MITSC purposes. Get involved in 1834 and 35. Participated in a Zoom call on that, which is the proposal for an amendment, and we'll talk about the depth of amendment to the Constitution of Maine to establish an officer on tribal relations. And then 1835 was an act to require the state to notify tribal governments when new laws are enacted that need to be certified. That would expand the certification requirement to bills, I think, that directly name the tribes or specifically applicable to them. So it was kind of interesting because I was heading to dinner and I got a call on my cell phone. I was in a number I recognized and I answered and she says, "Oh, this is Rachel Talbot Ross." And at first I was like, I know that name from somewhere. And I said, "Hello, Madam Speaker." And so it was the night before the bill was up for public hearing. And so I never saw, it sounds like they had these meetings. I guess that's the other concern. It's hard to participate in this process where there's all these other groups that are meeting, and then you get to the public hearing and changes have been made. And meanwhile, your testimony doesn't reflect it. And so I don't know what the solution is to that. But this was one of those instances. So we can talk a little bit more about it. I did finally she had her chief of staff send me an email showing the concept behind it.
1834, so I'm gonna ask Aaron about that just a little bit, but to comment on it is that I haven't heard anything from about Passamaquoddy tribal chiefs, and I think Penobscot would also have to weigh in as well. And so I think Zeke and Mullion and Aaron probably are aware of what's wanted or needed, or
Might be a good time to talk about it now.
yeah, sure.
So for the 1834, they were talking about not necessarily having the constitutional officer, but they wanted to appoint a liaison with an advisory committee that's neither in representation of the tribes or the state, just kind of a unbiased advisory to that position. And what they wanted to do was just to be able to keep up and give the tribes, contact the tribes on what is going to be happening within the state, aside of tribally motivated bills. So any other bills that come through the state that pertains to us or affects us in any way, that they were going to have this person working in that position to be able to keep the tribal governments informed of what's going to be happening. And as far as the chiefs, they're for it. As far as on Passamaquoddy end, I can't speak on behalf of the other chiefs, but it's a good thing. And also with some of the amendments that were made, because I didn't initially see the first whole language of this. So with some of the amendments that were made, is that it's just going to be easier to make effective and move forward with, as opposed to doing necessarily a referendum to change that constitutional portion of it.
So you had a meeting this 2 days ago or yesterday? on
No.
this? Oh, you didn't meet with?
No, I guess I wasn't privy to that meeting as well.
The governor, you didn't meet with the governor?
Oh, we met with the governor, but not necessarily pertaining to this bill. It was something she brought up about, just mentioning that that it was going to be, that this was one of the bills that was presented that same day on Wednesday, but she just mentioned about, what some of the roles and responsibilities of MITSC are, and she was, thinking that MITSC could do some of the studies and everything that they're asking in that position. I don't know which studies are specifically. I could get that information for you guys if you'd like. But I think that they were just the governor was trying to reach out to see how we can define the roles of MITSC in this position or to work with this position. So I think there's still a lot of unknowns when it comes to this, because even the speaker had mentioned that, that there was still going to be a couple more changes because this was only a public hearing and not a work session. So there's still going to be some other amendments, I'm assuming, that'll be presented behind this. So I guess, a lot of the information based around this is still kind of, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, and if I'm reading this right, are they talking about having a state paid position of deputy secretaries of state for tribal affairs?
And that's what it sounds like, yes.
Okay,
That's what it's looking like right now, and I think that that's the part that they want to try to figure out too, is what the overall cost is going to be.
and then having two staff person as well, the associate and then the economic
Yeah, I don't know if this is still.
development.
I don't know, I don't think that one is specifically relevant, this bill right here, because that was prior to the meeting. I mean, to the work session.
Yeah, to the public hearing.
Yeah, to the public hearing. Yeah, sorry, not work session, public hearing. So I think a lot of that language has been changed. And I believe that it's a one-person liaison with, this was to my understanding, that they were going to be having one paid position as liaison with it, and then have an advisory board
Of the five,
of the five, yes, with
Reservations.
with the appointments from the reservations.
okay, all right.
Yeah.
And that's how you see it as well?
I'm not sure what it's gonna look like at this point.
Yeah, yes, and that's why I say it's still up in the air.
Okay.
I did testify in front of what was originally like posted on the Judiciary Committee's website, and they're not good about, posting whatever it is they're considering at the public hearing. So I thought, well, maybe I shouldn't say anything, but I thought we have some thoughts on it, they're helpful. So I think I did testimony in favor of it, but saying deferring to the Wabanaki Nation's positions, because we hadn't had time to all
Right.
talk. And that, but as a general rule, it seemed like it was a logical progression. Hand up. So.
Yeah, oh, well, whenever you're ready, we'll.
So
we'll get
it,
Vern. It's
it's,
like, hold on, Vern.
so it seemed like a logical progression in the improvement of tribal state relations. So between, the constitutional provision, being printed again, the established, this was like the third thing. Maybe it's the Wabanaki Studies Bill, but anyway, it seemed like this is going in a good direction. And what was really nice about it was that if it's at a governmental level, that's really high. That's good. That shows government to government relationships. As well as if it's in the Constitution, it's really hard to change. So that for future administrations, if they're not as favorable, it would be hard for them to get rid of that position. So it would give it a sort of a permanence that you wouldn't have if it was just an appointed discretionary position.
Right, sure. Robert?
Yeah, so I'm agreeing with Jill, on this because, and I think from what I gather, what Aaron had said is to create a liaison, to me that's something they can do away with at some point. But the thing is if it's actually, a change, to the implementing act, I think that would be the better way to go because, historically, looking at MITSC, we do submit, our words of wisdom, I guess, you know, basically, you know, submitting our views on things, you know, and we do deliberate a lot of stuff of importance when it comes to, you know, the tribe, which is within our purview. But yet, whenever we make our suggestions, when we, you know, it's pushed to the side, and you know, so basically, MITSC has no real say. And I think that in creating, you know, making the change to the implementing act, like Jill says, it gives it some permanence. You know, that's a requirement by the state. I mean, there's a lot of other requirements, you know, that the state is supposed to be following, but they don't. But at least we'd have this in the laws. So I don't know. You know, maybe I'm misunderstanding what you're saying, Aaron. But what I gathered from it is they just want to create some kind of a liaison, and then MITSC would be, you know, doing what we normally do anyway, which basically a lot of times the state overlooks.
The other thing was that the collaboration statute requires 16 different agencies to come up with collaboration and consultation policies. And each of those agencies is supposed to have a tribal liaison, so that's 16 people. But there's no one who's appointed to oversee all of that, to make sure that it's happening, that it's being done consistently. So I thought having this person or this office could help with that. It is a big question, what would MITSC's role be?
Right, so I mean, really, yeah, so you could look at it like that as well, right, that it's the duplication. But I guess it would be put in place to ensure that legislation is front and center.
This is a wild idea, but in terms of, you know, would you think of maybe converting MITSC into this?
Mhm.
You know, because right now, like I mentioned, you know, we're supposed to be, you know, offering opinions on things that really get overlooked. Courts decided anyway. The MITSC doesn't seem like it has, I mean, maybe if things are changing, you know, that much weight that comes to weighing in on things.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it looks duplicative, it's the same thing.
So what was the final, was there a final, like, let's move this forward or move?
No, it's just a public session. It was an opportunity for the Judiciary Committee to get the background of the intentions and before the bill actually goes to work session.
Okay.
So, and it was an opportunity for public to be present to, you know, give their feedback pertaining to the bill, whether it was, you know, governor's office or private citizens or whatnot. So, but the majority of it, yeah, it was just a public hearing for it to get out there, part of the policy and procedure of moving the bill forward. There's still a lot of time that things are going to change, be revised or even corrected. So, referencing back to what I said, it's still in the air and a lot. I mean, I got the bill right here in front of me, as submitted to the public hearing.
Okay.
Right now, so we can look that over and if you'd like, see what differences were in there. It still does have a piece in there involving the constitutional referendum procedures, form, question, effective date, and resolved, and it kind of goes through the basis, you know, the information behind that. But the summary is the resolution proposes to amend the Constitution of Maine to establish an officer on tribal relations who is elected by the legislature and tasked with improving relations between the Indians and the tribes, the Indian tribes and the state.
Okay.
So to me, that says the same thing that MITSC is, just on another level.
Right.
So the redundancy, I guess, is that would be my opinion, is that there's some, you know, it's redundant, but you know, but if this could, I guess, I still want to see how.
And that's 1834.
This is 1834, yes.
All right, thank you.
And Aaron, you're on this list, but it was a late invite to a meeting on the 19th with the speaker to talk about 1834 and 1835.
Yes, yeah, we got that, was it yesterday?
Yeah.
Or, yeah, I think we got the email yesterday to be part of that. And
Is that next Friday?
I, yes,
Okay.
But
Is there a date for the work session?
I don't believe that there is a date set for the work session yet. Just give me a second, I'll refer to judiciary committee. In April, carryover request, carryover approved, legals, no, just a public hearing as of right now. And that was, on Wednesday. So there's nothing scheduled yet. I think they're just trying to get through a lot of the public hearings first.
Mhm.
And then they'll start giving solid dates on what they want to do with in committee. As soon as we get that though, I can update Jill and she can have that for everybody as soon as we do
Awesome.
hear a date set for that public hearing, work session, excuse me.
because when the speaker introduced the bill, she spent a lot of time talking about the advisory committee. And I hadn't seen that spelled out, so I thought, well, is there another version of it somewhere?
Yeah. And that's what I was trying to find here too, when I looked up the bill itself, so, and I think that's some of the changes that we were talking about, things that, change, that's not necessarily what we have received, so. But yeah, you're right, there's a lot about the advisory committee, and I think that's where they're leaning more towards now too. Cause even, Jerry Reed kind of was surprised by it, but thought it was a good idea, when he got up and testified.
I guess I'd like to know what the commission's thoughts are on this going forward. I know it's hard to say without the language.
I even say there's redundancy, but I signed on to this bill as a co-sponsor, so. I guess I didn't understand what the intents were. When it was first explained to me.
Who sponsored the bill?
Rachel Talbot Ross. Yes,
Okay.
yeah, there's Rachel Talbot Ross, Speaker Talbot Ross, Senator Donna Bailey, Senator Richard Bennett, President Troy Jackson, Representative Moonen, who's Vice Chair of the Judiciary Committee, Senator Ann Carney, who's the Chair of Judiciary Committee, and myself,
Okay.
all sponsored this bill.
Kind of makes me wonder if they could just beef up MITSC's role to do this, and then she could also appoint that one person.
And I think that's where the governor was going when we had met with her on Wednesday. I think that's where the governor was going with that, and also, I think the chiefs are even, asking about that role or difference between the two, so they wanted a little more information based around that as well. And I agree, I think that could definitely be where MITSC can definitely beef up and get on some roids, so.
If we're being asked to do that anyway, especially around the collaboration statute. Because Jerry needed, it turns out they haven't done any of the training, and they need cultural competency training developed, and they asked us to do that, so we're already helping improve tribal state relations by doing some of this work.
So we already have representation from all of the tribes, right? Yeah.
Except for
In- Well, we could have Big Mog as well, right? We do have Richard and Richard Silverwood. Does any of the other commissioners have any comments on that proposed liaison position from the state of Maine? Don't talk over each other.
I was waiting for Joey to respond. I didn't want to interrupt it again. When I actually read the information, to me, there and hearing from
Sorry, Sandra, we're missing some of what you're saying.
certain tribal
Maybe if
about-
you turn off your camera, we'll be able to hear you better because you're really breaking up.
You're breaking up.
I recall hearing some information about the usefulness of. Hear me okay now?
Yes.
Yes,
I'm
you're better.
gonna put it in the chat.
We can hear you.
Hey Zeke, did you have any comments on this particular bill? Rachel's gonna pick up your chat as well. Sandra,
I think she's still writing.
yeah. Well, we're waiting for that. How about Ezekiel? If you're there.
If he's not, may I be heard?
Robert,
Yes, if anybody else would like to address the group, please go right ahead. I'm only filling in what I think is dead space, but I think this bill is one of the most important things we've seen in the last several years, aside from the omnibus reform. I think it's very important that the state and the tribes get the right kind of liaison in here. I'm not sure what that requires. I've been wondering for years to what extent MITSC can or should serve as a liaison agency. I've asked a few different people here and there. The new request for cultural competency is an example of the kind of thing at stake. I can assume that the speaker brought this up as an amendment to the Constitution to avoid a repeat of the situation where Janet Mills first had Donna Loring as her tribal advisor, and then for whatever reasons the office was allowed to lapse. But it won't do just to have a constitutionally mandated office if you can't get basically buy-in from the governor and the tribes. It's only going to work if it's a two-way street, as I say. You don't want to wind up with the jailhouse telephone that says incoming calls only. But it's not going to be easy to make something like that that will work with the full cooperation and trust of states and governments. And if there has to be an advisory group in there consisting of two from each government, it sure makes sense to try to mesh that with MITSC so that we don't have whatever it is, 13 or 14 or 20 more people that the tribes and the state government all have to get to try to act as volunteers. I don't think it's at all inconsistent with our existing rule and practice that we act as an advisory board for a new office. It makes pretty good sense to me. And I'm amazed that this whole thing, I shouldn't be amazed that this whole thing is flowing so quickly, rattled around the legislature. I mean, you've got to get something that the governor's office is comfortable with, or otherwise you're going to wind up with three people with feather-bedded appointments. And with that, I yield the floor.
Should I read Sandy's comment?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Okay. Bert, I'm just gonna read Sandy's comment and then we'll have Sandy said, when I read the information, I was concerned given the whispering back in 2019 about the usefulness of MITSC. In my opinion, having this position become part of MITSC makes the most sense and will increase the usefulness of MITSC.
Save that somewhere. Or we save the recording, right?
Yeah, and I can.
Newell stepped out for a minute, so Bert. Speak.
Yeah, so basically what I've heard from Bob and what Sandy just you know posted there in her comment is kind of in line of where my thinking is that here we are, MITSC is already in place, and we are uh, according to the main implementing act, right? It's already in place. We are supposed to be that liaison in the first place, as far as I'm concerned. That's what our job is. We go, we submit, and we make our comments as far as what's going on in the relations between the tribes and the state. And yet the problem is when we've put things forth, the state has historically shoved our comments, our ideas aside. And so but I think if anything, they need to the state needs to seriously think about utilizing MITSC in that way, the way we're supposed to be. So I don't want to go on because I think I'm stumbling over my words, but what Bob and Sandy has mentioned, I think I'm right alongside of them.
Sorry, I had to step out for a minute. What did I miss? Anything good? All of it?
Darren.
Darren?
Yeah, hi. Thanks everyone for this. I guess, kind of like I said last time, I think this thirst towards making, permanent connections in a time that is viewed as like, that can't be reversed by the next governor or the next legislature. I think, and I agree with everyone, sort of how, MITSC is permanent. To the extent that the main implementing act is going to be continuing and so forth. I think I'm I believe that defining the role of this office with MITSC makes a lot of sense. I do appreciate the thirst towards making gains that are irreversible, or at least positions that are irreversible, given other administrations, other legislatures, and I think in Maine we're kind of, it's quite possible in a few years that the legislature looks a lot different. The governor might be even more anti-Wabanaki. It's just where those connections can happen and how permanent, how they cannot be erased or quashed is, I think, one of the important pieces of that I think this is trying to consider. So I just put that out there. I'm not disagreeing with anyone. I just think like that thirst of making things permanent when we have opportunities to do so is an opportunity we shouldn't miss.
Helpful to me, future meetings. At some point, maybe, if commissioners want to offer, once we get what the language is, if there's some language we can offer and say, well, here, this might work. Could do that.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. So I think overall, it's not like a bad thing. I think it's a possibility that it could work in conjunction with MITSC. And I think one of the biggest highlights of the bill that I can hear is that somebody's gonna be on top of what's happening at the State House.
Can I say something real quick? I just there was something else that came in mind. I think that somehow I think there should be somebody there at the, in the state government, but as far as creating another liaison, as far as a group, 2 people from each tribe, all that, like was already spoken before, we already have that. And the problem I see with trying to get, create another entity where, 2 people from each tribe, comes in, the tribes already, have 2 people, that they put here in MITSC. Okay, yeah, the only ones that are not available in this body are, the Mi'kmaq. But like was stated earlier, that can happen. Even I think that can even happen now, because we do have a space for the Mi'kmaq to come in. Okay, they might not be a voting member, but we always historically have taken what they had to say seriously. And if they don't have the position to make a vote on this in this body, a lot of us do follow through with what things that they have to say. So I think it would be important to maybe stress. I think Aaron, you're in a position there to make changes on these bills, or suggest changes rather than creating another body. Find a way to utilize MITSC the way we're supposed to.
Hello, Robert.
Yeah, here's a radical thought. Perhaps it could be that MITSC, composed as it is equally of state and native members, and perhaps later to include Mi'kmaq, MITSC would appoint the person who would then serve in the governor's office at state expense. That I mention it as funny as it may sound, because that could be the kind of process that could bring in an incumbent with enough ownership and connection with both sides that nobody will be able to ignore them. I see Bert's. Bert's got fireworks. Oh, wow. I'm going to have to check that, but thank you. I yield.
Yeah, so kind of give a little response, if I may.
Yeah.
Give a little response to that, especially what Uncle Bert had just talked about, and also Bob. Yeah, I do sit in a unique position, and that was a suggestion, and I was actually waiting for the opportune moment. So I'm glad that you served that platter right in front of me for an opportune moment, Uncle. Yeah, I'm in a position to make some of those changes. It's a little late, for this session, because this is an emergency session. But on the 132nd, I am more than willing to sponsor a bill on behalf of MITSC to bring Mi'kmaq on as part of MITSC as well. And the reason why I also say that is because we just got the Mi'kmaq Restoration Act passed, which brings the Mi'kmaq and the Wolastoq up to the same standards as the Beskar-Mukari and Penobscot. So, so there's no reason why they cannot be added to MITSC. And also, I during this whole conversation, I've already reached out to the Speaker of the House and asked, about doing that, specifically adding MITSC as that advisory and to be that representation that they're looking for. So, and it's, comprised of the same exact concepts of what MITSC is, tribal appointments and state appointments. So, and I agree with you guys. I think that I'm gonna push that importance of that, and try to, nip some heels and get people thinking about this and bringing this up into more conversation.
Lehman?
I just wondered, has anybody spoken to Donna Loring to find out what her experience was like? Pros and cons of her position, if it could be done differently, would you do something differently? That'd be worthwhile talking to her.
Is she still in that position?
No,
No.
she resigned, I believe.
What do you pertaining to?
Like she resigned, like that was, it was like,
Oh, from the government?
yeah, it was like
Yeah.
really kind of, you know, it was,
Government.
yeah, it was important, a significant thing.
She wrote a book about it.
Oh, did she? Okay.
Yes. In Fraud We Trust.
About that recently?
She kind of wrote a book, everything that's been going on and kind of her resignation. I mean, it really builds up and gives a clear picture of her resignation from working in the state capacity.
Is that different from remonstration?
I believe so, yes. Go. Sorry.
Jill, sorry, I think it's just like Under the Shadow of the Eagle or something like that. I think the title of that book is called Within the Shadow of the Eagle, something like that.
She wrote In the Shadow of the Eagle before she served in the governor's office.
Oh, okay.
It's in her time in the legislature. And One Nation Under Fraud is the remonstrance piece. Those are one and the same.
Oh, okay.
But you're right, Andrew. There is some there is some commentary about, you know, her time in the governor's office and that.
Find that. Yeah, I haven't had a chance to listen into her show. I don't know if she's ever discussed it on her radio show.
She's very coy about calling it out in a specific way. I'm on her show all the time. And yeah, I think it's you know, I think she would, if we asked her direct questions, she would be very honest. So I think engaging her would be great. I think she would respond, you know, quickly to whatever request we would have.
Is that something you could do? Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we could get on a call together.
Yeah.
I was interested in doing that. Yeah, she may not want to burn any bridges, so maybe that's why she's being coy. Maybe it's not a door that's closed entirely.
Yeah, I don't think that. It's just the way she is. I just think, you know how she is. She's like, you know, about it, you know, business and yeah, she's super professional. She's not gonna throw anyone on the bus, but she'll be honest. I mean, I've been in interviews with her where she's honest about how, you know, what's wrong with it, what was wrong with it, or anyway.
Great. Thanks, Darren. Robert, did you have something else?
Only to,
Oh, the other, sorry, the other.
what's that?
Bert? I think Bert had his hand up as well.
Go Bert.
No, go ahead, Bob.
I support, thank you, Brother Polches. I support fully Darren's comment that that Donna be interviewed. I mean, it just makes perfect sense. She's the only person who has ever held a position, you know, anything like what we're talking about. You have to talk to her as part of the due diligence. And I just thought I'd mention as an aside that when I first took this commission, not knowing what to do, aside from talking to Paul Tebow, I called on Donna, who was then in the governor's office, and she thought I was absolutely crazy, but she wished me good luck.
Right.
Should we get back to the
Yeah, so let's,
staff report?
where are we? Staff activities?
Yeah.
Okay.
Page 14.
14.
So yeah, no Indian territories have been asked to be added. Fishing rules and regulations are somewhat on hold till Bob gets back. I am gonna reach out to this Joe Overlock, who's putting together the spreadsheet showing where the differences are between their rule book and our existing rules. But I guess I wondered who is on, was there a subcommittee that was working on these rules?
I don't believe so.
Rachel, I mean, Jill,
Yeah,
I think it's been left. Well, I haven't done anything since our last meeting on this, since I was taken ill not long afterwards and have only been up out of bed a few days. But I need to go back to, I guess I need to go back to all of the fisheries connections on our side of the table, remind them that the project is still in the works, and let them look at the table that IF&W puts in their booklet to explain how to contact the various tribal authorities and make any corrections to that are needed. But we're not going to get into substantive discussions beyond that until at least March. And yes, Overlock volunteered to make a listing of all conflicting regulations, which I think is a heroic job.
So previously, was anybody else on the commission working on
Oh,
this?
I'm sorry. That wasn't responsive to your question. No, we haven't really had a committee. I sort of volunteered when the idea came up last December, and at the time I promised Paul Tebow and Rachel that I wouldn't burden them with anything I didn't have to. I'm capable of carrying on now between us and Overlook until something gets more, until we get more active. And at that point, we're going to need the people that have been identified as the tribal consultants to this effort. And Sandy, one last pitch to you. We're still looking for the person from Sabayak. That would create, in effect, a committee, not a MITSC subcommittee, but it would be me, Sam John, who doubles as the fisheries guy for this purpose, and Joe Sewell and Chuck Loring, and I can't remember who else is involved. But yes, there's a combined MITSC native fisheries sort of subcommittee getting ready to move.
A lot of sense. Yeah, Penobscot didn't seem, I don't think they rescheduled their fisheries conference. Yeah, I haven't seen it. Follow up. 'Cause that might be a good time. Everybody's getting together then to have a little gathering.
Yeah, I'd like to get my next broadcast around to people so that they're reminded of that by the time the Penobscot group gets together. I've been inactive the last month on it, but I'll get right back on it.
Check Lauren and see if they've got a date for that conference. And then we're moving on to education and outreach. So the Wabanaki Studies Bill, Rachel and I both attended that hearing and it had overwhelming support. I don't think there was anyone who came out against it. So we were there, what, 3 hours?
Yeah.
There's probably 20 people who testified. So I don't know what there is left to do with that one. They'll probably have a work session, come back. I did submit written testimony, so that's in your materials. Oh, I know what it was, that there is sort of a little bit of drama afterwards. I didn't really understand. John Diefenbacher Crawl was sending emails saying that the Maine Education Association somewhat changed its position. And I don't know what all the politics were that went on with that. Because I didn't really hear any testimony that was like really opposed to it. Except for we did certain, I thought important provisions did get cut because there's going to be objections. One was the requirement that teachers have a course in Wabanaki studies as part of their certification requirements. So that was not favorable to whoever does that. And then ongoing continuing education in Wabanaki studies was also something that they put. We said no, can't agree to that. It was really interesting. I was actually just kind of looking around for cultural competency materials last night, and I came across a video by a fellow who was working within the Department of Education, and he was giving them sort of, and had worked with tribes in Wisconsin, and he was trying to give the teachers some background on cultural competency. And he happened to mention that he was working with the Wabanaki Studies Commission in like 2019. And so now I'm really puzzled, like who is he working with and what's he talking about?
What's his name?
I'd have to look it up, yeah.
Yeah,
And he was, he's not Wabanaki,
Right.
so I don't even know if he's native, but. So I gotta follow up with him, because there's,
So I could have an answer for that.
okay,
The when Governor Mills came on, she had established like a special, and this was Donna too helped with this. Through the DOE, they kind of reestablished a group. It might have been confused with the Wabanaki Commission, but it wasn't the Wabanaki Commission. It was, I think, officially a committee appointed through the DOE. But it was to take up and address sort of the standards, some of the pieces that actually, and I think the work, some of the work that we were engaged in there led to the creation of what Bree is doing in terms of the Moose modulars, but also I think led to the some of the language in this bill too, right? So in terms of DOE's responsibilities and sort of having that, so there was a committee established through it was non-legislative, a committee established through DOE, and so that I think I recall this person and they did the work through this committee, yeah, but it had representation from all the tribes and a bigger kind of role for DOE, including the Mary Herman and Commissioner Pender there as well. Pender Macon, is that her name? Yeah.
the first that's come up in conversations. Yeah, because one issue is I wanted it to be clear that what the commission, our commission, the MITSC is doing is to provide like administrative support to help hold the commission together and facilitate meetings, maybe take minutes, help drafting reports, but that we weren't gonna be the on the ground person. And so I had asked Courtney, escapes me, from the Department of Education, are you gonna staff this position? She said they are committed to staffing a position to work on the loss implementation. So I thought she was referring to Bree, but later on, I think she referred to this person working for both the Wabanaki Studies Program and the African American Studies Program, which I thought was very discouraging because there's a lot of work to do if this is reach all the school districts. I think the other thing I was introduced to is the fact that there's the Department of Education, but they don't feel like they can dictate to the school districts, that the school districts are autonomous units. And so that they have to agree to do it kind of thing. So that's challenging.
Yeah, that's true. I sat on a committee with, a board with them back in 18 and 19, and there's no standardized like textbooks for Maine. Each district can pick and choose what they're gonna present in schools.
There's a great Wabanaki book. I'm trying to remember the actual name of it. It's like a green color book. It's about that thick. It's got some like curriculum for teaching the younger classes in there. And it has an amazing written history of all Wabanaki nations here in Maine. And actually Richard Syllaboy was one of them that was part of doing that. Wayne, Richard, and it's about that thick. It's called the Wabanaki something handbook.
Brown cover.
Yeah, it's like a brownish, like almost like your jacket.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit lighter.
I've got a
But
copy of that.
yeah, that book would be an amazing curriculum for that if they needed some form
Yeah.
of standard,
I'd like to
look
see
at.
that.
Yeah, it's just, definitely a start. Too.
MITSC has a copy of it.
Oh, they do?
Yeah,
I think from the 80s.
I think it is from the 80s.
Yeah. It still has a plastic record inside it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
So the bill hasn't passed yet, the studies bill, but MITSC is supposed to appoint someone to serve on the commission. So, but there'll also be, I think there's a chair of the commission. Separately chosen, I think, by the commissioners. So at some point, keep that in mind that they're,
I saw your email.
yeah, MITSC will want to appoint somebody. So, start looking at each other now. we haven't been asked to do anything around the NHL Welfare Act. But Rachel and Rafi have been very busy working on the tributaries videos, educational videos, so this is a good time to.
Yeah, I mean, if we can, at some point,
Break, actually.
we'll take a lunch break.
Yes.
Maybe we wanna do that and I can like see
Yeah,
how it
let's
works
do
to
that. It's
share
11:55.
Cause I'm just wondering if I have to share it on theirs, because my computer can't have the sound when it creates their data.
Oh, yeah.
That's my only question.
Okay.
So, yeah, maybe we take a lunch break, I'll fiddle with that.
10 or 15? So 15-minute break here for the commissioners there, and then for the viewing audience as well. We'll be back.
So I'll.
Anybody still here? Bob Checkaway, I'm going to move my stuff into the car because the tornado watch has been lifted. And I'll try to see you on the backside.
Thank you.
That's one question.
What?
Now, one stupid question. Can you tell me if you remember if that's 59 or 159?
It would be 1-5. Hold on.
Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna take Tom. Take a couple things to the car. And come back. Okay.
Yeah, it's yours.
I'm taking log. And my stuff except my purse, and we'll be back. On the next. I'm reading the junk bag too. I got too much space. Meg and my room. Okay, be back in about 5 or 10. I'm gonna walk.
Go mobile.
plug into the
Yeah, I know.
cell phone. Oh, I mean,
Mute, just watch her.
hold on, don't even start yet.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear us?
No,
We're back.
Are you gonna do something here?
I am gonna share a screen when we're
Okay.
ready for that. Yes, that's why I'm sitting.
We're up to.
I'm ready for it.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah, that's cool.
okay. All right, well, if everyone is back, the next thing on the agenda was I was gonna share some of the recent work Rafiat and I have been doing for MITSC tributaries, which is basically like the vehicle for education and outreach, sharing with the public, any, important stories, especially it's been focused on sea run and, issues related to that topic so far. So the most recent video, we actually launched it not just as a video, but now we formally started a MITSC podcast, which is exciting. And it's also available as a written transcript. So going forward, each video we release, you'll be able to listen to as a podcast and read the transcript if you want. And we're gonna go back and repopulate the podcast with the other prior videos that are mostly interviews with John and Tony, because those aren't up as podcasts yet. And right now you can listen to the audio on SoundCloud, but as soon as we pay the fee, SoundCloud can then send that you'll be able to listen to the MITSC podcast on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts. So that's kind of exciting, and it's inspiring us to do more work with an official introduction to the podcast. But I think that's gonna be a great way of getting information out there. So I will share screen here. Okay, so right now, is everyone seeing this is part of the homepage of our website, the tributaries section, and the most recent video was an interview with Dwayne Shaw, who's the director of Down East Salmon Federation. So I'm gonna click view. And then we can play this video.
Is there any audio to this?
Are you not hearing it, Bert? Huh? Is everyone else hearing the audio on this?
This is Sandy. I don't hear it either.
So to stop sharing, you have to click a button, to share on it.
Oh,
Yeah, not making it to Mississippi.
okay, sorry, folks, sorry you had to just watch that for so long, so if I stop share, you're saying?
Yeah, and then share. Before you click your share, there's a button in the lower left corner.
Thank you, okay,
A box.
yeah. All right, Newell has helped me and I'm so sorry, that must have been very boring. Okay. Try this again.
Brought to you by the Maine Indian Tribal State Commission.
Tributaries, Episode 6, Interview with Dwayne Shaw. Fishways.
Hi, I'm Dwayne Shaw. I'm Executive Director of Downey Salmon Federation, and that's based here in Washington County, easternmost Maine. The organization's 40 years old, 41 years old this year, started by local anglers primarily, and focused on wild Atlantic salmon, but also other sea-run fish.
If you could change one thing to positively impact sea-run fisheries, what would it be?
The law. So it would have to be really one very simple change in the law, and that would be any dam owner puts a fishway in it, and it will be a fishway that works, or you remove the dam. And that was the law in the past, but during the Industrial Revolution it got changed, and it was relinquished down to local authorities, and those local authorities had conflicts of interest, and we needed the dams and the power and so on, so that's what happened. But yes, so that very simple law change would make a tremendous difference. It would not be without a lot of pain and suffering for a lot of people who have to then pay for those fishways, but the fish are more valuable than the other things that we're gaining from impounding all the water, right?
Yeah.
So,
Which is interesting because that was a message by the Commissioner of Fisheries back in the 1800s, that the fish are more valuable than the value of all the lumber in the state.
exactly. Yep. And so it was well known, and I think that many people knew that, including many tribal folks, and people fought over it. That was the very first, I call it, and I believe it truly is, the first environmental battle on the soil of this continent was with the early Pilgrims and Puritans. When they started to build the very first dams in the 1600s, they fought immediately over whether they were going to put a fishway in or not. And those same battles continue to this day. Just outside the window here is a dam without a fishway. And I'll talk more about that in a second because it has a really interesting history. So way back when in European law, the Magna Carta, which is the basis of Western law, said you build a dam, you put a fishway in it. So I think that's the 1300s. So it's pretty simple principle. It's absolute insanity to do what we've done. And, it's proven many places that you could have your mill and your fish too, but it was easy not to maintain that continuity. And that's what happened here on the Cobscook River or the Orange River. It was the subject of a big experiment in the 1800s, where after the first U.S. Fish Commission was started, this was the site of it.
You're at a stop for a second.
50 yards from where we're sitting. And it was an experiment. Can you make a fishway work? Because there was a lot of debate over that. And they built one and it worked. And then when the mill went bankrupt or was eventually abandoned, fishway was abandoned too. And so for 100+ years, we had a very effective fishway and recovered fish in a river that had been destroyed here in the town of Whiting. And then, so that's why we bought the dam, was to, make a change happen one way or another. And I think we're going to get that. It'll be $4 million, but we're going to have our dam and our fish too.
MITSC tributaries. For more information, visit MITSC.org. This is a MITSC Tributaries production, brought to you by the Maine Indian Tribal State Commission.
I'm just gonna scroll down here though to show you, here's just the audio, so you can listen to that on SoundCloud now. And we're gonna go back with the interviews with Judd and Tony about C-Run and put those up as well. And then here's the transcript. So that's gonna be the new format on the website for tributaries. And I'm gonna stop sharing now.
We were gonna look for additional funding to continue the work on C-Run and tributaries. What is the name of that? Sewell?
Yes, that's questionable because it's invitation only, but I'm gonna reach out and see if maybe there's still a chance to get in, even a small amount. And then hopefully go back to Broadreach.
Right.
But if anyone else has ideas for funding for this type of project, we are looking for it.
For maybe more partnerships.
Yeah.
There's Natural Resources Council, National One.
Yeah.
Just going on with the report.
Thank you, Rachel, sorry. Yes.
So we're still kind of talking about environmental concerns. We're looking at the Ultra campsite. Something I inherited on the work plan, but it looks like since October 11th of 2022, there's been a settlement entered, and there's a website that will give you updates on it. But at this point, it seems like all the remediation efforts have been done, and they're in the monitoring phase. And they'll monitor every 3 years for up to 45 years. Then we'll do a reassessment after 35 years. So, I think unless there's any new developments, this is really kind of something that maybe doesn't need to be on work plan anymore. Just keep tabs on it. Then we haven't done anything on PFAS yet, except that there's meetings, usually Rachel will attend those. We'll keep our eyes and ears open on that. You're monitoring the Wolf Den and other mining projects. Still waiting a decision on Wolf Den Resources application to rezone its land near Pickett Mountain in the Katahdin region. They wanted to put a zinc mine in there. And I just thought it was interesting that there was an op-ed in the paper, it's a paper, I don't know if it's Portland Press Herald maybe, by a state representative, and basically urging the Land Use Plan Commission to reject the rezoning application. And he noted that he was particularly moved by Dan Kuznaris's expert testimony on behalf of Penobscot Nation. So it's really good when we and the tribe show up for these things. Keep our eyes open. And then, we just kind of address the remediation of structural dams, structural things like dams and environmental harms, dioxin. Do you want to talk about your Living Tides work?
Yeah, I continue to participate with the Living Tides group, and it's a diverse group of people dedicated to the health of the Schoodic St. Croix watershed. Even the group is even international. And they're really very supportive of the recommendations that the C-Run report makes, and are very interested in collaborating with us in support of those recommendations. They participated, members of that group participated in the fish talk that we had as part of our MITSC retreat last summer. And they're also very supportive of helping continue that conversation and facilitating all the various groups that should be part of that conversation and identifying actual actions that can be taken. So they have invited, they would really like to meet Jill and have proposed like a half-day meeting to discuss ways to move forward with the goals and actions of Sea Run and Scudic River conservation. So we're gonna work on scheduling that. Hopefully, if all of you approve of moving ahead with that.
Maybe at the time of the retreat. Makes sense.
Definitely then, I think if you're gonna be down east anytime and could connect with them sooner, I think they would love to just meet you sooner than later, but I think for the retreat, we should definitely plan a whole segment around this issue, because I feel like it has a lot of energy behind it.
Was that first fish talk, was that just internal to the commission or?
No, we invited in representatives from a bunch of different groups involved, groups and individuals that are involved in sustenance as well as river restoration, bringing fish back. And there was a lot of interest in continuing that conversation and a lot of, I feel like people really want to take action beyond just talking about it. They wanted to identify collective actions, either in the legislature or grassroots as well.
Did he just say you just need to change the law, require fishways
Mm-hmm.
in all dams?
Yeah, Aaron, maybe you can get on that one. Let's submit a bill.
To do what now?
Change the law, require fishways to be put in with every dam. Can't put in a dam without a fishway.
I think based on the Mousecock case, I think that we have to go to the court systems. The court system for that ruling every time, we would have to do that individually for St. Croix.
Well, it happened at Woodland.
Just well,
Two
yeah,
thousand thirteen, they had to have an act of the legislature.
for that one
Make
dam.
them open the board, pull the board out of the fishway, that existed.
And we still got 2 hydro dams.
Yeah.
One large dam and 1 hydro dam. It's on the Scudics.
I didn't know until Dwayne said it, that once upon a time, even like that was the law, even.
1800s, yeah.
Yeah.
And I knew that was the Orange River, because him and I actually talked about it at one point, about taking the dam out of the Orange River.
Yeah, well, and he also told me it was once the Comstock River, and I think even it's like possibly an example of changing the name to
Avoid.
to further like further a certain agenda.
Yeah.
Thank you. Those issues. Then another bucket or basket is sustaining cultures. So we're looking for LD 294, an act to include a tribal member in Baxter State Park Authority to get passed. Last I looked, there doesn't appear that a public hearing has been scheduled yet. Don't know what the sentiment has been on that. Anybody know, has it been opposed vigorously or not?
I'm not sure, actually.
On which one again?
The putting a tribal member on the Baxter State.
Oh,
Authority? What was
opposition from who, us or just state?
generally, yeah, I mean, the
So-
authority itself.
Yeah, so there's a lot of opposition from the authority and the family.
Yeah, family.
Not only them, but a lot of a good amount of state officials as well. They think that there might be some legality based around that because it goes against the wishes of the trust and of Baxter himself. Because they tried to do something similar, not tribal pertaining, but tried to do something similar while he was still alive, and he came and testified and said that it's an insult to everything that he was trying to do, even though it's obviously stolen land,
Right.
especially a sacred site for all the Wabanaki people. But I think that there was some compromises that were going to be made and that they were trying to have somebody appointed to the advisory board and not onto to the top board. I know that I heard some conversations, a lot of them aren't always upfront with me about these conversations because of being a tribal member. But there was some conversations based around that and they didn't like the fact that it's still a conversation happening around that. So there's a lot of opposition that we're gonna be fighting against, and some pretty powerful people are behind that opposition. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, as of right now, I believe that there's still a lot to be done around.
That's interesting when he testified against it in the past, because there was some question about whether there really was a trust, or is it just by looking at all these letters and things that they found a trust through all those things.
Yeah.
Most of one now.
Was Darren trying to speak? Yeah.
I thought it was there, and let me just.
Sorry, yeah, sorry. Trying to digest my lunch still. Bob and I took a kind of deep dive on the articles incorporating the trust. It's what Andrew said. I mean, it's not clear it would actually be legal. Like it would pass the it would be challenged even if we got it through. And given the most recent decision around sort of changes to this, it would probably fail. So I think given that, people are looking for another way around it, like in terms of more incorporation of Indigenous people's perspectives in Baxter. John Banks and I and some others had a meeting with the Friends of Baxter, and we're working on facilitating more like a deeper training and appreciation for Wabanaki people's access and perspectives and that sort of thing. But that would be like more of a longer term training kind of thing, which actually is probably a little bit more exciting than this position in and of itself, right? That if we would gain greater access for ceremonial and medicinal gathering, things like that, would be better than a position, which doesn't necessarily bring any of those things together. So I think there's some discussions ongoing, but in terms of the bill, I think it was not seen as so critically important. Either that they were going to really push it while some of the sovereignty bills are kind of being considered as well. So that's my sense of it.
Appreciate that background, it's helpful. So there's a couple of bills that touch on it maybe a little bit, like LD 25, an act to provide Indigenous peoples free access to state parks. So members of federally recognized tribes, nations, bands wouldn't be required to pay an admission fee to any state-owned park or state-managed historic site. You know where that's at? It seems like it's just sitting there. Then another one is LD 1349, an act to review state lands and waterways that have sacred, traditional, or other significance to Wabanaki people. So this bill would establish a commission to review the state-owned lands and waterways and identify which lands or waterways have sacred, traditional, or other significance to the tribes, and develop a process to return land and waterways to the tribes. And there's going to be a lot of conversation about that. There's a public hearing on January 22nd at 1 o'clock.
On returning the land and water.
Yeah. See. So. This is only like a month's long report, so we haven't been asked to do anything around repatriation or access to cultural resources or language preservation. I did attend Place Justice Project panel discussion by Zoom. It was really informative. There was like a ridiculous number of names that are either offensive or racist around the state. I think they had a list like 300 or 400 where they were derivative. So I asked them to share that list with me. So follow up on that. It's very widespread. And economic and revenue development, I think I already talked about the governor's position on sports spending. And then access to federal block grant funding. I think there's actually a bill that says, that's trying to designate a certain percentage of block grants should go to the tribes or to less wealthy communities. I don't know how that's going over. Let's see this list here. Oh, LD 625 on page 20. So it would require the Department of Health and Human Services to set aside 20% of the annual federal block grants for vulnerable communities and at least 12% for federally recognized tribes. Last I looked, there was no hearing scheduled. And LD 2007, I think people refer to this as the sovereignty bill, which is an act to advance self-determination for Wabanaki nations. Aaron, do you know anything about that? Have you seen a draft or?
They said that they're doing away with it and that we're all being enslaved instead of.
No problem.
Yeah, no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
So no, I haven't seen a draft of that. They're still having meetings with chiefs. So about, you know, some specifics, you know, based around that and how that language should look. It is actually being called the self-determination as opposed to sovereignty, because self-determination is a little less, how was that worded again, Joe?
Nation within a state.
No. Sovereignty, when people hear sovereignty, they kind of cringe just because of the fact that. Yeah, they react to sovereignty, but when you say self-determination, a lot of people take that as warmer wording. So that's not verbatim how it was explained to me, but that's kind of the gist of it. So, but a lot of people have, you know, reacted more positively when we said that we're looking for self-determination as opposed to being sovereign. So, but yeah, no, it's pretty similar to 1626. The LD 1626 that had failed and got vetoed in the House during last legislation. So there's gonna be some changes to it based on some conversations between the chiefs, AG's office, you know, trying to work out some of the issues or concerns on the state level, and us still trying to, you know, still have that sovereignty, you know, without negotiating our rights away again, you know, so, yeah, as of right now, it's still a work in progress, between the chiefs, the speaker's office, AG's office, and the ambassadors and myself. That was actually that, when I had an earpiece in earlier, was based around some of that, so. Yeah, I couldn't give an extreme directive, but Brian Collin had sent around some recent updates on those talks, and, but there's no language in actual writing.
And the Judiciary Committee did, it was a 3 or 4 hour, like, analysis of 1626 and said what the impact would be.
Yeah.
It was very well done. But it clearly seemed like there were some things you need to work through. But I think they said there's a hard deadline of the end of January.
Yes, to have the language in, so.
Right. You could share that with us, because we didn't see anything, I don't think, just a tiny.
Yeah, and I gotta go and find all that stuff there too, because a lot of our bills pertaining to us, somehow I gotta, you know, track those down.
Brian not working with the tribes is a huge loss. So
He's still gonna, he said he's still gonna have his hand in a little bit.
Okay.
But yeah, he's working on a huge campaign right now, so. Yeah.
And then the next area is improving government to government relations. So kind of put LD 1679 under here, which is the certification bill. I think we discussed it a little bit earlier. So this was an interesting public hearing because there were concerns about, because it seemed like a bill would go all the way through the legislative process. It would be approved by the legislature, maybe signed by the governor, then it would go to the tribes for certification, whether they agreed with it or not. But if the tribe disapproved it, well, then you could ask for consultation, like a consultation session. And this is all supposed to happen within like 90 days, the close of the session. And so what I did on this one, I didn't take a position either for or against. I just said, you know, whatever the tribes, if they want this. However, my concern was about the process, and that consultation should happen like the minute a bill is introduced. If it looks like it's gonna have an impact on the tribe, that would be the respectful, appropriate way to handle it. So I imagine it's gonna get reworked, because both the governor's office and the AG's office opposed it. Because they said, you know, when you have this approval thing coming after the end of the state already ratifying the law, then it's handing authority over to the tribes, and that would be unconstitutional. A veto power, that's what it looks like.
Yeah, and it would be require a change to the legislation again if
It's a huge
the
waste.
consultation didn't get resolved.
Right, yeah, it's a huge waste of time to do it that way. Hopefully, so I do hope that. So the other thing I just wanted to mention is that Governor Mills, she also expressed frustration that so much work had gone into getting bills passed, and then the tribes missed the certification deadlines. She was giving an impression that the tribes were not being cooperative, because I guess there were some changes around VAWA. And so criminal history information from the tribal courts hasn't been shared. I think she thought that was gonna happen immediately. Of course, we're gonna start sending it and everything. And I said, well, it's a little more complicated than that. You know, having worked in a couple tribal courts, I don't know that the tribes themselves said, yes, we're willing to do that. So I don't know the whole process of how we got there. But it's something to look at, and maybe it's just a matter of talking, you know, to councils or police departments and saying, what we're really looking at is the things that fall within VAWA, you know, domestic violence type things.
That's all that's supposed to be shared.
Right, and that by not sharing it, it's almost like you're siding with the error, as opposed to, you know, making sure the victim gets or the survivor gets the protection that they need. So I'm gonna follow up on that. But it was interesting that was one of the things that was on her mind.
It's a little intrusive because court systems don't do with the state court.
Oh, well, I think, now, and that's the other question, because originally I looked a long time ago at the SBI, the Maine State Bureau of Identification, where all the state criminal convictions go in, and they wouldn't take ours. Because they said, well, by definition, it's not, you know, we only take records of state courts. It's like a district court, not a tribal court. So that was a concern to us because, well, there was like, you know, if we had someone coming in on a driving under the influence, can't remember, but no, wait, is it OUI or DUI?
OUI.
Okay, so an OUI, if you had a second offense, then there's, you know, more penalties, or, you know, do jail time or something like that. And because they didn't know that there had been a conviction in tribal court, this person was being treated as a first-time offender in the state courts. So the workaround was that the Secretary of State said, well, send those convictions to me because I have the authority administratively to suspend licenses. So he'll give credit to the tribal court conviction, suspend licenses. So I don't know if that problem's been fixed yet. Like, where are the tribes supposed to send their records? There's a federal program called the Tribal Access Program, and it's only about a handful of tribes are working with the federal government, that they would be able to, they get special kiosks and they'd be able to send their information out and go to, I guess, the federal databases, maybe the state ones. But they were working on that 4 years ago. So they moved on it. So it's a complicated issue. It's not gonna happen overnight.
Yeah.
And question 6 was very successful. 74% voted in favor of printing it.
Yeah.
And nothing on block grant funding. Yeah, we haven't done really anything around UNDRIP, but I'll try to remember to include that more, testimony, things like that. Yeah, and I just talked about this business with the criminal history.
Yeah.
And Judge Maynard is who the governor mentioned, been pushing for this. Then this monitor efforts to return state lands to tribes. I think that might be the bill. And then this other 31,000 acres, east branch of the Penobscot River. Some other group is working on that.
Mhm.
What's the date? Please. Yeah,
Kim,
what's the date?
what's the date?
No, what's the date?
What's the date?
It's the Penobscot word for the East Branch.
East Branch, I think it's a Passamaquoddy word as well. 'Cause
Yeah, it's very close. Yes, to the best.
There's a Passamaquoddy child named Wasadeg.
Yeah, there's a similar word. Yeah, and Jill, that's not, that land return is not really. I don't think that's part of a legislative effort. It's a different thing.
Okay, yeah, I thought so. I misspoke. And then the last thing under this category is to work with the permanent commission, racial, indigenous, and tribal populations. They were doing the Place Justice Project, but they also have, other initiatives they're working on. There's a particular scholarship that they wanted me to serve on, or fellowship sort of selection committee. So I haven't met with them yet on that, but didn't feel like it was right to say no without meeting them first. See if it fits.
Mhm.
And then you've been in conversation with them more than I have.
Yeah, I've had a couple, one meeting, with Ariel and Morgan. Ariel's the director. I'm sure what Morgan's title is, but she's very involved. And then another meeting with Leanne, where we were talking more about like natural resources issues, including PFAS, and she read Sea Run and had some feedback too, so I'm sure she'll share that at our meeting.
Just disproportionate impact. I think we've covered a lot of the, maybe on two.
Yeah, we,
Up to
it's probably 89 and 10 were all included over there.
Right. So I just refer you to the chart on page, starting on page 20, where things are. And then I also included copies of my testimony. I didn't say all this in the oral presentation, so I've got to learn how to do that differently too, because as an attorney, you want to make sure things are on the record, but in the public hearing, what was interesting, it was is the people with like shorter stories, were more impactful. And there was the Passamaquoddy woman who teaches at Calais High School.
Lynn Mitchell.
Yeah, Lynn Mitchell. Yeah, I think she really made a huge impression on them, and
Yeah, people were really moved by her,
right,
what she shared.
her passion for it. So I'm gonna have to do my style different. So, but it's still, I wanted to, have it at least in the written test.
So would that move us up to number 11? And we've already talked about that a little bit as well, but
Right. State collaboration. Talked to Jerry Reed on this, just the update I have from him, because they had submitted their policies. And they had said that they had completed, there were 2 things they had to do, they had to get trained, 3 things actually. Get trained on coordination and collaboration with tribes, and then also on mandatory training. Yeah, it's on page 37, there's section 11.054. Says that the agency shall ensure that the tribal liaison has been designated, and that they help get training around communication and collaboration between the agency and the tribes, government to government relations, and cultural competency. Well, in some of the documents, they said that they had the communication, collaboration, government to government relations training. So I asked Jerry, I was like, well, could we see what that was? And it turns out it was just him talking to them about the law. And then he had drafted a template policy and explaining the template policy. And a lot of them, the majority of them use that template policy. So there's a few that, beef it up and, do a little bit more with it. But there was no training per se.
No cultural sensitivity.
No, and that's the other thing is he said, that's one thing that we don't think we should do. We couldn't do it and we shouldn't do it. And so that's where where MITSC apparently is asked to help with that. So that sounds like a really big project to me. And it sounds like, because every tribe must have different things they would like,
Considered.
yeah, considered. So like just like earlier with lunch, I was joking about, well, I'm an elder, I get to go first or something. And so I started to think about small things. And there was the people in the Judiciary Committee were sitting in a circle and somebody walked around counterclockwise. I was like, ooh, that doesn't feel right. And then, so things that we just do naturally, so I think there's a lot of work to be done. So at some point, I think we really need to I needed to have some help from all of you and even like directing me who in your communities, maybe as your traditional people, your culture bearers. They might not even be on, a tribal governmental official. But yeah, we really need to, I don't know if they can pull together like a conference or something. What would be the best way to get people?
Well, I mean, I think part of it might be just to have a, I don't know what you wanna call it, a conference, but a gathering, right, of, cultural knowledge keepers.
I don't know if one of the other communities have either, but I know that Elizabeth Neptune has done the cultural sensitivity trainings in the past. I don't know if that's something that we'd be able to contract her, or if it fits in the budget to contract her to do something like that, but I mean, I believe it might be a worth conversation. She's amazing at it and has some part of a study that she had done specifically for the Passamaquoddy tribe. A few others give some pretty eye-opening statistics based around, Passamaquoddy public health. So.
Oh, so is she with Wabanaki Public?
No, she does. She owns her own
Consulting
business.
Because I had also looked at Wabanaki Reach, and they say that's within what they offer, but then they were on hold. Get in touch with the person. But yeah, no, that's a great.
That's another.
And usually the entity that has the training would pay for that service.
Right, well, that's what I'm thinking, it should be the governor's office.
Right, exactly, yeah.
So. Not us, the other thing is.
Cause I've done it as well, and I did it like at Calais Hospital, and they paid me to do it.
You guys trying to write a list for fighting words for the governor?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm gonna ask him, because clearly.
Pay and budget and all that. Fighting words.
Fighting words. And shouldn't she pay for that?
Allocations.
No, that's what's equitable.
Actually, it'll be you guys are doing great with your online sports betting. Okay.
I wanted to earmark for certain tribal interests.
Yeah.
They said they don't do that. So, the other commissioners, do you have any suggestions as to folks who could be invited to a gathering? Think of a structure. I think that I also, I say people be okay with us recording it, because there's going to be people coming and going from the agencies, and if we could have it on like webinars or something, that new person can sit down and watch.
Yeah, that's an idea.
Yeah, that be consistent.
I think I think us deciding, I honestly think someone like Liz or someone who does this training, and then we could work with her, perhaps, like just make sure all the tribes are represented in it. But I think it requires more curation than just like recording something like a gathering in terms of training. I just, having been down this road before too. So I think it just would require some deliberation with someone. And I love, I mean, all the people who are engaged in this work, and including, I know Newell's done it, he just mentioned that, and others, Wabanaki Reach, Liz, I think their different approaches. I think we should just, if we're on the hook for it as MITSC, I think we can really curate it with someone. I think we need someone to specialize in this with us. I mean, I don't know where the funding comes from this, but yeah, we'd have to pay someone for sure.
Darren, what happens at the university, like for new professor orientations or new employee orientations? Is there anything that covers that?
Not in the depth that I would want this to do, because I think we're talking about cultural sensitivity training.
Right.
Just for no, I mean, usually it's a panel with some Wabanaki people for faculty, new faculty, but that's all, and I would want this to be more structured.
Right.
Just
thinking about where you are and how that might affect, like, even, food service workers.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. And no, there isn't that level of insertion, at least on the Wabanaki side. I think there's sort of the onboarding process requires some level of training in this regard, but I always got the sense that it was really minimal. I only know the
steal from you and just implement it over here. So.
Yeah. I don't think it's at the level we would want for this.
Right.
I guess, yeah, I'm just concerned that you could have somebody who gets, hired, they could be working for a year before they finally have a.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying, is like, like, we have to have that entry level people as well that are coming in and saying, part of the process is part of orientation.
Maybe we can talk to Liz and other folks about that. I don't know if you can have them do written exercises or something to show that they've internalized it.
Quiz,
yeah.
Quiz
I don't know, because that's part of the cultural sensitivity training at the State House as a legislator. And like a lot of the comments in there, holy moly. It was terrible.
Maybe you should give us what not to do.
I don't know. I mean, I think it needs to be done. I think, especially for like top officials and having those specific meetings between our chiefs and officials from the state. We're always having to appease their protocol, and they totally disregard us. So I think that they, some education behind that of how, how to properly speak and approach our chiefs, because they just treat them like they're just somebody from a program, and in reality, they, they're the governor is no more important than chiefs or even us. So, I think that's where that gap between communication really lies, is just their
disconnect.
Their disconnect and disregard to our forms of communication and our, like just procedures, I guess, for appropriateness,
Disrespect. Well.
Yes.
Yeah, because it's like, okay, I know you do.
It's trying not to sound. Yeah.
Well, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just.
It's trying to say it with candy yams.
See, I worked with the Ojibwe people, and they have their own protocols, and and it was hard. I wish they had said right up front they did no training whatsoever for people from other tribes, but then they would get offended if you didn't offer them tobacco before you asked them a question.
Technically, that's our protocol too. That's the word.
Okay.
Yeah, technically, that would be our protocol as well.
Yeah.
Tobacco or a gift. If you're asking someone for something, you offer tobacco or a gift.
I always make sure we thank them or compensate them for their time. So that's what a lot of the materials said.
I always carry tobacco. I have some in my pocket.
Okay.
It's a matter of fact.
Well, thank you, because it's hard, because we are their ancestors.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking they got all these things from somewhere.
Yeah, they're our relatives. The Medayman believe they come from us.
Yep, the big shiny water.
I could ask,
Okay.
Sorry.
That's the one I'm most concerned about getting off the ground. It needs to happen. I feel like that's a pretty high priority.
Well, the last time I really participated when we was in UMO too, that was something that was brought up in the discussion, but being able to get that processed and the state following through with us, offering it as well. Because I remember me and Bob, sorry, not Rob, me and Bob was talking about that, about the cultural sensitivity. Remember when we was, all met at UMO? We tried, there was some conversations and there was some initiative to move forward with that, but I believe that we just, it just was really hard and almost impossible, because I mean, it's hard to even get legislators, to show up on time for, session. So, I mean, there's just certain things that are in the way, I guess, but I think we should still keep pushing forward with that fact.
Maybe we could have a separate meeting just dedicated to this. Zoom.
Kind of like how we do the legislative and policy committee where anyone who wants can show up.
Right.
Yeah, but we don't need quorum, is that what you're suggesting?
Right, can we do that? Mr. Chair.
I'm sorry, can we do what?
Have a subcommittee on this.
Competency?
Yeah.
Yes, I think that's a good idea. Yeah.
I think it's important. Oh, I'm sorry, Bert. How?
A subcommittee for what now?
To help develop the cultural competency training for
protocols
yeah,
or.
Yeah. I don't even like that word competency.
Okay. Oh yeah, so you mean on the MITSC level, we come together, and I was thinking that, because even sometimes when let me backtrack a little bit. Back during the fisheries thing, during the Elver fishing, there were some incidents that took place. Very, very disrespectful. And I think back then, I mentioned, I think a couple of us actually mentioned the fact that, there needs to be some understanding, because I took personal offense when our chiefs were treated as if they were just, some of these people coming off the street, wanting to voice their opinions on whatever bills they were discussing. These are leaders of nations, and we have to always remember that first and foremost. These are, the Penobscot Nation, Passamaquoddy Nation, the Maliseet Nation, the Mi'kmaq Nation. These are nations, and we always have, I think it's important for even the state of Maine and all of its municipalities to remember that our leadership, they deserve the respect as leaders of nations. And so, the thing is in working with ceremonies, there's a lot of different protocols that are in place. They might vary from, in different ways, but they're basically the same when you go down to the roots of it all. And I think that here in MITSC we have because sitting here representing our respective nations. And I think it's important that we come, try to find the people amongst our nations to come together and discuss these things. Maybe here, maybe MITSC would host that and come together and start finding a way to develop a group that can come forth and help to create these protocols, help to create protocols of education for the state government's legislature, legislative body.
Lou and Bert. Sandra.
Thank you. I think that there's a couple of things. Number one, I think that this board is more than capable of setting a framework, because I think that is, for me, the starting point, because we all have different experiences, right? And we all, as tribal citizens, have roles in the work. So in order to be able to put together a presentation for people who really don't want to listen to us or don't care about us. I think we need to kind of take their approaches, turn them on their ear, and create our own. So basically, you know, we, rather than just telling them, this is what you need to do, why do they need to do it? When is it done? Who gave us the authority? Who gave us the teachings? So that there's a well-rounded picture about who we are, what we do, why we do it, when we do it, and who gave us the authority. Okay, I'll shut up.
Yeah, that's good. William?
William, Kiss?
I guess everyone's on the committee.
It's a committee.
Yeah, exactly.
See them,
And Aaron. Well, thank you. It's really helpful. And just people's names, as you know, you think of like an invite list, and I think we should do this pretty soon, like late May, early June. Where could we host it?
I think maybe also that's something we could think of on our next retreat as well. You know, bring something together.
Well, I kind of think, but that's not till when.
The retreat isn't till September.
Yeah, so.
I'm talking about an extension. You know, we get something started and then we can bring it. You know, that'll give us an idea as to where we're at. It should be an ongoing thing. You know, because there's certain things that just like anything. I mean, as a curriculum developer, I know that with the military, there's always some little tweaks that you had to make. In the process, you get something going, you put it into play, and as it's going, you find these little things that need to be tweaked a little bit, to work correctly and smoothly. And so, maybe, during the retreat, we can also revisit it, I should say.
I think we need to figure out too, as a group, and say it out loud and document it somewhere as well. When do we want to present this? To whom do we want to target? Where do we want to present it? Because those, like, we want to be able to look at this because it's a project, right? So we want to look at what does it look like the day of presentation, and then work our way backward to figure out how we're going to get to that day of presentation. So we establish the framework for that. It then becomes easier for us to go out and ask for the assistance of the wisdom keepers in our communities in specific areas that we want to present on and share.
Hopefully the committee can help set that framework for the meeting with the wisdom keepers.
But I like that, Sandra, because everyone's going to have a little bit of a different perspective on what they would like to see be respected.
Need Dick?
Need Dick?
And just, do you have a suggestion as to where we could have this gathering, where it'd be like the most appropriate place?
Augusta.
It's not really central.
The Blaine House.
Right.
Nobody's really central unless you go like, I don't know.
Danforth.
Yeah, that'd be central, most central.
Danforth.
Yeah, because if we do Bangor, it's not central, we're at Penobscot. If we do Holton, we're at MITSC. We do anywhere else, so there's not really any central place except for Danforth is right in the middle.
What's in Danforth?
Nothing.
Oh, okay. Maybe it was close to Danforth.
So I guess.
It's a lot of trees.
They have a stop sign.
And a grocery store,
Yeah,
couple farms,
it's Route 1.
couple meth labs.
Somebody's getting a drug court. It's holding back. Speaking of that,
States technically taken on.
Oh, right.
Drug court too.
they had them and then they put them die. Funding right now. But so any more serious suggestions?
I think as we're choosing a location, we need to be mindful. Again, I'll go back to, not only do some of these people not care, but they wish we would walk away. And so if we put it in an area, like we'll say Danforth or even Holton, Washington County, unfortunately, I think this initial time we are going to have to go to them. Because then that helps to remove those barriers of, it's too far away, there's nothing there, like all of those lame excuses that will be used. And then we just end up sitting there talking to ourselves.
Did you meet that?
Yeah, ideally, like meetings on each reservation. There's only 2 of us. Big workload and.
We'd love that, but nobody ever comes to us before it.
Can I just ask a clarifying question? Sandy, were you talking about the final training when you were saying go to them though, but not necessarily the initial gathering, crafting the training?
I think it's up to us to craft the training and we can use whatever methods work the best for the overall group. But yeah, I think rolling it out, we will go to them once and then, you know, say, okay, we'll be holding annual sessions and maybe do an annual meeting in each community.
Got it, right?
And so Jill, when you were talking about a location, are you talking about the initial planning gathering?
Well, yeah, I mean, it would seem appropriate. I mean, I guess I shouldn't put arbitrary timeline on this. I guess I was just, because I talked to Jerry, he seemed quite like, where is this? I think it would make sense to go to each reservation, whoever's on the committee, and have those kinds of conversations. Then maybe bring everybody together once we've gotten sort of some information collected, you know, are there any commonalities? You know, among all the groups, then we could do, so that would be the big gathering that would happen after the individual sessions. Kind of trying to think, did Wabanaki Reach did that? Maybe they went to each of the reservations for around the boarding. Yeah, it was around input issues. Sandy, you might have been involved in that.
I actually was not. And I think like when does the legislature close? When's the session end? Is there any opportunity to have anything to be able to present to the main legislature before the close of session?
I don't know. It's April. I guess the group meeting. Is there a place that the tribes ever gather together? I mean, we have the spring social, right?
Yeah, Bangor Social?
Yeah. We had it at Penobscot, right?
Oh, yeah, that's right, sorry, it's at Sauk Alexis, it's gonna be Sauk Alexis this year as well.
So is that a pretty good slate for maybe this thing too?
We could. Jump in there at 9 o'clock.
Yeah, because actually, the youth use it after.
Well, during the social, I mean, they start the social at like 11 to 6.
Oh, so have it in conjunction with that? Well, it's pretty quick, isn't it?
It is fast.
We do a talking group then, by people. So we've been tasked to do this, if you want to have some, but what you'd like to tell the state employee? What are the most annoying things that happen to you? Okay, I'll see. I don't know if I'll have to talk to the community about something. Close, well, we're up to the end.
We are.
About the meeting dates.
Look at the schedule on the back page.
Back page.
We were trying to get close to each reservation. But one of the limitations is that we need the technology, so we can do the live stream and do Zoom.
If you come up our way, the Callis Heritage Center would probably be the best location, because that's right slap dab in the middle of both communities.
Oh, we can do
In
that.
Callis.
I didn't think about that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
We just have to reach out to Maine Indian Education about a conference space.
So which meeting would that be, maybe? In May? Yeah, because
They have apple trees up behind there, there's a beautiful apple blossom.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, during that time.
I'm sorry, what is the facility that's there?
It's the Maine Indian Ed, the Heritage Center. It's Maine Indian Education and Museum.
Yeah, that would be a great.
So we'll try to move May 10th to that.
Okay.
They got the Williston meeting now too, you know?
I think they have that one coming up.
They have,
somewhere.
well, I mean, Holton, they have the Williston in now, as well as,
Oh.
they have their own like conference center too. So
Oh.
maybe we could talk with them,
Yes.
maybe Zeke still up, yeah, maybe instead of having it at the Shire Town Inn, you can
Yes.
utilize the Williston facilities.
I think that sounds like a great idea. That conference center just, got up and going just recently.
Yep.
Okay,
I second that.
yeah, we would
That's awesome.
prefer that. Check the tip.
Great.
Is that in?
Yes.
What's the address for that?
Well, good.
Zeke or Sam?
Two different addresses.
I'm
that-
not sure. Sam might, but if he doesn't, I can find it.
Oh, that's okay. We'll find it.
Isn't it the third birch tree around the bend?
The third birch tree, yes.
What, yeah?
We'll try to go with that schedule, and if dates aren't possible, then maybe we'll switch them.
Yeah.
Great. I'll follow.
And then we did the University of Maine at Prescott. I guess it was Holton Van doesn't work on Fridays. Friday's off.
Right.
Yep.
Now, for the November 8th, do we want to have another meeting in Augusta, or do we want that to be somewhere else?
Is that the legislative, that's during the legislative session?
November?
Did they start?
Still in session or not, are they?
No,
No.
that'll be election time.
They be done? Sorry.
Oh, not this, yeah, will that be, I think that'll be election time this year for next. For 25, 26.
When did the sessions run from?
January to June for a long session, January to April for short session. We're in short session right now, that's usually the emergency bills and some carryover.
So no meetings in the fall.
No, you won't barely have anybody down here in the fall.
So let's move that one to the Mitchell Center then, May 10th, we could go to Callis, and then November 8th, maybe we go back to the Mitchell Center.
Yeah. I really hope I can get your help, and especially on the cultural competency. And getting people in the communities.
And we want to do that over the next 3 months?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of, we have a lot on our work plan, so I just wanted to maybe confirm things that are like top priorities. So I wrote down the fishing rules because we're statutorily required to do that, and we haven't gotten them out since 2005, maybe. And then the collaboration statute, which is around the cultural competency. When Wabanaki studies is passed, we have to do that pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe finishing, figuring out where sea runs go. Does that seem appropriate, those top four? And we're still monitoring legislation.
Right, right.
That's helpful.
Beth, anything else from anyone up there on the, giant TV? Yeah, so how about a motion to adjourn? Bert?
Second it.
Who said that? Oh, Joey, okay, thanks, Joey. Objections
You're
to
welcome.
adjourning? Hearing none, make it so.
Jill.
See you later.
Right?
Yeah.
Phenomenal, Elon.
Thank you.
Well, Leland,
And legislation is a dark color.
Yeah.
you wanna shut us off?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone out there.
Thanks, everyone. Goodbye.
Good weekend.
Just gonna mail, cause I'm.
Oh, stay safe. I'm supposed to have a storm.
Saturday,
Yeah, stay safe.
That's it? I don't know.
More wind and rain.
And then one Wednesday.